coming to the Curry County Board of Commissioners meeting of Wednesday, January 18th, 2023. It's 9 a.m. We're going to get this started. So I'll call the meeting to order, and please stand with me. We'll have a moment of silent prayer, and then do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please bow with a moment of silent prayer, please. All righty, thank you, folks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Time we'll do amendments / approval to the agenda. Commissioners, what's your...
I'd like to pull 5D.
5.
For some discussion on that, clarification and discussion.
Okay. Just move it to...
What was that?
5D?
E.
Okay. No, D.
5D.
D is in Dave.
Okay. Move it to 6 EFG, 6G.
6G.
Mr. Chair, the only thing I have is a quick comment about 5E, if I may.
Okay.
Just the work that the Curry Suicide Awareness and Prevention Program has made in Curry County, and the grant work, Gordon Clay, he's not here today, but he makes sure that he runs everything by our board and just does tremendous work. And just want to give a little shout out to him and his team and the tremendous work they've done. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Any other amendments or corrections to the agenda? So we got that down as 5D is moving to 6G. And please help me to remember, gentlemen, public hearing at 11 o'clock. Ted's got to announce it. I don't think there's a huge gathering in the opposition or for it, but we have to notice that and then move on. So,
Mr. Chair?
It's easy to forget because it's at the back of the agenda. So.
Excuse me for interrupting you there.
That's all right.
You were done. I might recommend that we move consent agenda item 5D to 6A. We have Brookings Harbor Helper Community Executive Director here, and
Okay.
make her way to the end of the action items. We might put her on first. I didn't know she was going to be here today.
Yeah.
She's going to make a public comment, which I'd like to make a quick introduction for her.
Okay. Any, you okay?
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, so we'll move 5D to 6A, and then just move on down the discussion action items after that, okay? I'm good with that. All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So approved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a big time in our meeting where it's public comment time. And the first one today is Pamela Weinberger.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I've had the opportunity to work with Pam and her crew for several years now. Tremendous work they did for the Checo Bar fire. Had a good visit with her this morning. She has become an accomplished grant writer, and I don't think there's anybody that works, other than Connie Hunter, anybody that works harder in this community than Pam and Olivia. And she loves our county and our communities. If I'd have known you're going to be here today, I would have tried to put you on the agenda. She might need just 1 or 2 extra minutes, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Well, we're going to talk about that CBDG grant, and that's kind of concerning that. So you can speak maybe again.
Okay.
Do you want to wait?
And I know that's for South Coast Food Share. You know that's not coming to us, right? You know that's for South Coast Food Share. That
Okay.
will help to bring the food
Yeah.
here, which is what we want to do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about food.
It's all about food.
I just know it goes in here and comes out and makes my
All
belt strain, so.
Well, thank you,
Thanks,
Board of
Pam.
Commissioners. for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Pamela Weinbarger, and I'm the Administrative Director for the Brookings Harbor Community Helpers, the Food Bank, and the Resource Center. I think the only person that really doesn't know me is Mr. Alcorn, so good to meet you. Our organization provides a resource center and food services to local veterans, seniors, disabled individuals, youth, and families with programs ranging from food to youth snack packs to diapers, personal hygiene kits, and navigation and assistance with services in our community. In 2022, we had an average of about 3,300 people individuals that we helped each month. In February of 2022, we came to the Board of Commissioners and asked for $128,000 from the ARP funds to assist with services we provided. And in June of 2022, we were approved for $60,000. And to this, we say thank you to our commissioners. We really appreciate it. Brookings Harbor Community Helpers staff and volunteers worked throughout the pandemic in 2020 and continue to provide services to not only the individuals and the families whose incomes are at the poverty level, which is about 14% of those in Curry County, but also to individuals and families who fall under the criteria of ALICE. So in front of all of you commissioners, I put a paper that says, what is ALICE, who is ALICE? It's not a who, it's Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed. This is our workforce. There are 33% as of 2018, 33% of our county workforce falls under ALICE. In other words, they're not at poverty level, but they're just above it. So there's the ones that are our cashiers, our waiters, our child care providers, other members of our central workforce. And those are the ones that are struggling households to make impossible choices every day. To put food on the table, which is becoming more and more difficult, to pay for daycare, to pay for health care, transportation, food, and housing. These are the workers that are struggling to keep their households from financial ruin. And so in 2018, the ALICE report came out and 33% of our Curry County workforce fell under that. For seniors over 65, the federal poverty is about 11% as of 2018. We're expecting a new report coming out in 2023, which will really identify what is really going on in Curry County, which I'm looking forward to seeing. And 45% of our seniors, 45% of those over 65, fall under ALICE. In other words, they're barely making it. And we know that from one of the programs we have I'll talk about in just a second. So this is based on the statistics in 2018, and we know that those statistics are higher. We know, because we know how many people come to the food bank, how many people are coming to our resource center. Last month we had 769 people that came in and we interacted with in our resource center. Not in our food bank, in our resource center. People that are struggling to pay rent, people that are struggling to put gas in their car. I struggle to put gas in my car. It's that kind of a thing. But next month, the federal SNAP program will end the pandemic allotment for all families participate in Oregon. That means that everybody that got the maximum amount of food stamps in Oregon will now be cut off completely. So all those families and the overall SNAP benefit will go back to the original pre-pandemic amount. And now that families are really struggling to put food on the table because of the inflation, now what are they going to do? Well, I can tell you what they're going to do. They're going to come to the food bank. And Curry County is defined already as a food desert. We know that. We get food from South Coast Food Share. Now that the slide is, we get it 1 time a week. Used to get it 2 times a week. We barely get anything from them. So 50% of all the food that we give out, we purchase ourselves locally. You guys have been to the store. You know what the prices look like. So South Coast Food Share provides food pantries to 42 sites in Coos County. We're number 2, the largest. With the expected decrease in SNAP benefits beginning in March 2023 and the reduction of local food availability, just the availability for us to be able to do that, the decrease in food to buy through South Coast Food Share, and the rising cost of food at the grocery store will continue to increase the amount of food we need to purchase locally. So we are asking for the Board of Commissioners today to think about and determine whether you guys can give us an additional grant from the ARP funds of $125,000. This money will go for fresh food, for our senior fresh food project. It'll go for our family boxes, which we currently give 3 to 5 days of food to families once a month. That's not very much. We have a senior fresh food project for seniors that are low income that fall in the ALICE. There's 305 of those seniors that we give out fresh food every week. We did a survey not too long ago. 50% of them stated that this helps so much with my limited income, and other people said with inflation, I'm so happy just to have fresh fruits and vegetables again. There's an old saying that says food is medicine, and food is one of the 3 basic needs of all humans. So I ask you today to help out our local food bank, the only food bank in Brookings. Although there's churches that do help out, St. Tim's is wonderful, the community kitchens, Brookings Church of the Nazarene. But our food bank needs to have our county, and especially our commissioners behind us to help the families in need. We're not talking about people that are federal poverty. We're talking about your workforce, those that I spoke of before. Those are the ones that are going to be coming. And I can just only imagine what's going to happen March 1st. We're going to be inundated with families in need, and we already are. So I appreciate your guys' time. If you have any questions, I'll stick around for a little bit.
Okay, thanks, Pam.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Pam.
Mary Rowe is next. Court.
Oh, excuse me.
You might want to take another look at this, and Commissioner Alcorn has a seat.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me in this thing?
Yep.
Okay, I don't see well enough to adjust these things. I'm Mary Rowe. Thank you, Commissioner Boyce, for responding to my request to provide a space for warming on December 9th during the severe storm and long electrical outage, which was possible due to the emergency manager, Monica Ward, agreeing to oversee it. I hope that plans of how to have future warming stations can be made at a future workshop. Secondly, thank you, County Council Fitzgerald, for processing the resolution declaring that we in Curry County are in a continued state of emergency due to lack of housing. When our BOC passed the first housing emergency resolution about 3 years ago, our former governor, Kate Brown, recognized it but did not act on it. But our new governor, Tina Kotek, just issued 3 executive orders declaring a statewide emergency due to homelessness and calling for more housing and an advisory council. So, we are wise frontrunners in officially recognizing such an emergency. I'm asking for an item to be put on your next agenda to form either a housing task force or a housing roundtable under Commissioner Alcorn, whichever approach would be less formal, easiest, and most likely to make progress quickly. Participants would be those who know of methods as well as how to implement such methods quickly. I am also here to ask that some of the rescinded $250,000 of American Rescue Plan or ARP funds be used to help our most vulnerable citizens by being allocated to the Brookings Harbor Community Helpers Food Bank and Resource Center, also vulnerable citizens by being allocated to the Brookings Harbor Community Helpers Food Bank and Resource Center, also known as BHCH.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Commissioner
sir.
Boyce, and newly Commissioner Alcorn, thank you for having me here. I'm to report on the Wreaths Across America ceremony we had last December. Thank Commissioner Boyce and then Commissioner-elect Alcorn speak for us. I wanted to thank the Beachcomber Cafe and the McKay's Market for donating foods and snacks for us, and Debbie made a bunch of cookies. The program last year had donations for 2.7 million wreaths nationwide, at 3,700 different locations at cemeteries. We finished to put all our veterans' graves this past year. They were late. There was a trucking problem, and we got the 10 boxes shipped the same day that the truck arrived, and we received them the next week, and we placed them out ahead of time. I also want to thank Dan Bratton and Lee Garvin, the two pilots that did our flyby for us, and we appreciate that very much. What else? Is that it? Okay, we have presentations for Commissioner Boyce and Commissioner Alcorn.
And I apologize today for Matt Hall. He's not here to take pictures. His son got an email earlier. His son is sick, and so if somebody could maybe use their cell phone and take a picture. You got a camera. That's a I thought it was a cup. I thought it was a drink. Okay.
Okay, for Commissioner Brad Alcorn, and I'm sorry I broke the glass trying to keep it dry this morning.
I'll take that one.
Okay, this is a Wreaths Across America Certificate of Appreciation
Get down there, yeah.
for participating at our ceremony. Well, you gotta take the picture. And for Commissioner Boyce, Wreaths Across America for participation all as well for our ceremony.
You're gonna have to bunch up.
We're also going to give you each a thumb drive of the ceremony.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to hear his speech again. It was the best.
Well, there you go.
Well, there's 3 segments on that thumb drive, and you got to go to each one. But the flyby is on there.
Okay.
Yeah, it worked out very good.
Share your picture with me.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You guys do such an awesome job there, and I really hope to see more young people show up for that. I think it's really important, and I will be, as I talk to more folks in the community, I really hope to use this platform to encourage some of our kids to attend that.
Mhm.
That is the future.
Right. Well, we do have the high school band, the Brookings High School Band, signed up as sponsor group, and they're going to probably start this year. It was too late last year when they signed up, but and we'll see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see a junior ROTC program going here and get that incorporated with what you're doing. I think it's great.
I got it, Mr. Chair. But our goal is that at some point in time, we're not going to be able to do it, so we would like some young people to be able to take over our spot when it comes time that we're not able to do it. So we want this to continue, the Wreaths Across America.
Yeah, the people from Brookings were so generous, we were able to match every corporate donation this year, or this past year, and we made enough wreaths to cover this year. But we're going to still do outreaches and just keep gaining, and have our account. We provided 30 wreaths for Gold Beach for their ceremony so they could meet their goal as well.
Okay, you guys want
Mr. Chair, I
Thank
think,
you.
is this your fifth?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you,
Is this
sir.
your 5th year?
Third.
This is the 3rd year. We're getting a good presence also at Gold Beach. Every branch of the service has been consecutive year after year recognized. Gold Beach VFW. Better turnout every year.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for recognizing also Dan Bratton and Lee Garvin.
Oh, you bet. And they've already committed for next year, weather permitting.
They can hold them to it. It's huge.
Jessica Carlson.
Yeah, Dr. Carlson.
Yes, and then she hustled to Gold Beach to participate and contribute to
Right.
that.
Well, we have a new contact in Gold Beach now, and I'm going to speak with her, and we're going to arrange to where we're going to have our ceremony in Brookings at 9 a.m. and try to get theirs at noon so we can all come up and join their ceremony as well.
Next year, December.
Next up is Mike Appling, Gold Beach Ranger Station.
Mr. Chair, I didn't know Ranger Appling was going to be here today, and I've had the opportunity to meet with him, and he's replacing Wade McMaster at the Gold Beach Ranger District. it's just, you come from Grants Pass, so you know both ends of the Rogue River, and I just have really enjoyed getting a chance to meet you, and appreciate what you've inherited, and the work you'll do, the crew you have, and the very, very best forest management. It's wonderful to have you here, Ranger Appling. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner Boyce. And it's been very nice to meet the rest of the commissioners here as well as a number of the public I've had an opportunity to meet with. I really wanted to come here just to introduce myself to you all, and also to you all, just to open up my door and invite you guys in at any time to come and visit, because I don't feel like there's, while I'm new to Gold Beach, I'm not new to Southern Oregon, so I live in Grants Pass, as was mentioned, born and raised just in the neighboring county in Josephine, but I spend a lot of time over here appreciating all that you guys have to offer here in Curry County, fishing the Rogue since I was a little kid, and hiking the Chetco and the Illinois River, over in Josephine County. So very familiar with the community here and all of the beauty that it brings. I want to just offer up my services while I'm here. I'm here through April anyway, at the very least, just to be that conduit for the public, for really understanding what the needs are here and how we can help you guys out at the federal level. Already I've seen the cooperation and that you guys and how you guys come together in the event of an emergency. I got a chance to witness that firsthand here with this last week's slide area, and just seeing how leadership here in Curry County pulled together with the Coos County leadership and really put forth efforts to coordinate. I think it was county or OES, the county here, Sheriff's Department, Oregon Department of Transportation, really watching folks pull together and solve a problem in an incredibly short period of time. My first word that I got on that slide on Highway 101, it was going to be well over a month or maybe two before they were able to do anything with that, which just raised red flags, just like all of y'all. But seeing how fast folks came together to at least get a lane open and open up that artery and was just incredible. And I think that speaks volumes to the leadership here in this county, and really looking forward to serving you folks in any way I can. So I did bring a few business cards with me, but maybe you guys could post for those folks that don't have my number or know where the Gold Beach Ranger Station is. I'm just down the road from here, so stop in and visit anytime. I'm actually living over here now. My wife comes over here on the weekends and spends time with me here. So it's I just feel blessed to have the opportunity to spend it here with you folks. So thank you.
Good meeting you, Mike.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on. We have presentations, but not starting till 9:45, so I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. So we moved 5D to 6A, so we are there right now at
So 5D?
5D.
All right, so,
Just one,
Okay.
one quick modification. I mean, we have the fair board members here. Maybe I know it's.
Yep.
That's
we
fun,
could do
yeah.
that, just get them so they can go on with their lives.
Yep, we can do that.
I need a favor from them someday.
All right, so they were 6A, so we'll appoint the fair board members. So that is 6A on our packet.
So can I make a motion, Mr. Chair? That
Yes.
we do a silent ballot here, as we know all these people, we work with them all, and I could go any one of the five, but I think that would be appropriate and respectful to all, and I don't want to scare anybody off. We can only vote for 3 out of 5, unfortunately.
So any other comment on that?
I think historically that's the way it's been done.
So we all
Yes.
have a,
Well, I lost mine. I made copies for you guys in case you accepted that.
well,
I'll make a note. I can do that.
yeah. Ted, does that need to be in a motion? The way we vote, or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's gonna be appointing them.
Can I look and see how you're voting? No, I'm kidding.
We'll hand those to Ted, and he'll be the official. Bless you.
So what we have is Chris Bros, Katie Hensley, and Scott Nicholson.
Okay. Ted, your mic's not on?
What was that? Oh, sorry. We have Chris Bros, Katie Hensley, and Scott Nicholson.
All right, congratulations. You bet. And for the, so we had 5, and we picked 3. For the 2 that, we just appreciate your willingness to serve. The existing board members and those who didn't get it, don't give up. Never give up. Never give in.
Thanks,
Guys,
guys.
come back.
Yep.
They're really terrible for it, to be honest.
So we will now go to 5D, which is 6B.
All right, so 5D, in my understanding on that, that's the, where we're using Sequoia Consulting, I believe, to administer a grant. That's my understanding.
Well, actually, the way that we don't, right now, we don't have a contract with anybody to administer the grant. We have the grants, we're here, we can accept the grant at this point, but we don't have a
Okay.
contract for administration. You basically have 3 choices under the current procurement rules.
Okay.
You can either, you could either have the county administer the grant itself. There's a $25,000
Administration fee.
administration fee available. You could have the county do it. You could also put it out for
Bid.
RFP or RFQ, I guess, or request for qualifications. And you could Sequoia was the one that originally
Right.
wrote this up to, but the procurement rules require that you go out to public bid for that. And or you could also do option 3, which is have South Coast Food Share if they're interested, and I don't know if they are, but I think they would be based on their earlier comments. I read the file, and they say that, I remember the $2,500. They said the $2,500 charge for getting the grant would actually convert into 17,500 pounds of food. So for people in need. So that's a lot of food if you talk about 25,000. So maybe they'd like to manage. Maybe they'd like to and I would assume that they have the capability of doing that. But I don't know. I think we should ask.
So you heard that.
Yeah, I did.
So my purpose for pulling that
Yep.
was, number 1, to make sure that we were following the new guidelines that we just approved on the
Yep.
procurement rules, because it seemed like we were out of balance there. And then number 2 was to I guess my question was, why wouldn't the food bank be administering their own grant and then reaping the additional benefits from that? Of course, the other option, if they weren't capable of doing that or didn't want to, was to keep that in-house at the county. We just sent some folks to grant writing school.
Yep.
And it seems like the cost we would recoup from that would pay for grant writing school and then potentially pay for more folks to go to grant writing school. So, but I guess the first question is, or is the food bank willing to administer their own grant?
Well, she said earlier, it's not her grant.
No, it's not our grant.
It's
That
the
grant-
food share.
Yeah, it's South Coast Food Share. So basically the grant, what it's doing is, a lot of times there's breakdown in equipment. If you've ever been to the warehouse, and probably nobody has, I have, breakdown equipment and not enough food there, like I said, 42 pantries in Coos and Curry County, and we get the least amount, and we're the second largest. So what that grant's going to do is shore up the ability for them to get more food to us by having better trucks, having better equipment, and those kind of things. So we're not benefiting from that grant, not here locally, not at the food bank. So it's going to help get food to us, but it's not going to bring money into us so we can buy food from them. It makes more food available, where right now it's pretty slim pickings.
So can we can't say they can, I mean, since it's.
No, we can accept the grant.
Yeah.
You should move to accept the grant, but then you should decide. And
Who's
you don't
gonna
have to
be the
decide
administrator.
in this meeting how to administer it. You could, if you want to, we could reach out to South Coast Food Share and ask them if they're interested in doing that.
Okay.
If that's your decision, then we'll do that. Otherwise, you can proceed with either having in-house administration, which, I mean, I don't know. I heard a lot about South Coast Food Share here the last week when the road got bad and all of a sudden there was no food. And the next thing I heard was we were going to be down to one delivery a month.
Yeah.
So my position was, I thought, man, I'd like to have some more input with South Coast Food Share, like maybe control their money, but that's
Right.
just the kind of horrible person I am.
Well, and I understand that, because the 1 week we didn't get food,
Right.
and then the next week we only got one delivery. So it's not once a month; it's once a week that we're going to be getting food. But that's still, on Tuesdays we got fresh food, and on Thursdays we got our staples, those non-perishable foods. And so now we're getting it all combined in one truck, and they have to bring down to us, and then you have to go up to Gold Beach and drop off there. So now we're getting less food. Again, we have to buy more food, and so South Coast Food Share is governed by ORCA, and so that could be where you maybe need to go. That would, yes.
Well, it doesn't make any sense that if you're the second largest food bank, you don't get the second largest amount of food.
Right.
And logistics are, where you're at on the Oregon 101 shouldn't matter, I
No.
wouldn't imagine.
So I would think accepting the grant is something I certainly want to do, and maybe the first right of refusal would go to
The county or to the South Coast
to
Food?
the South Coast, and then if they don't want to do it, then we should take it in-house.
Did we write the grant? They did.
No, the Sequoia applied for the grant.
Okay.
So, if I may, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
sure.
Council Fitzgerald, what do you think about, we have some confusion here, and, it's not a major thing. What's our time frame? Because we might want to have a workshop on, February 1st, our third meeting, and just pull everybody in and see, the clarification you need, I also need. I would recommend that we invite Sequoia Consulting. Now, I've been a fan of theirs because I've done my research and the work they've done for other counties. And yes, they wrote this grant, so I'm not saying Curry County is obligated, and I don't want to go against the procurement requirements, but sometimes you got to go outside the county to get the right approach to get work done. And the regional thing between Coos and Curry County, the slide we just had, I'm just recommending, too long of a response here, that a workshop might be in order.
Can we accept the grant
I think we should
And then-
accept the grant.
and then put it out to bid, and whoever wins the bid, create a workshop with them and the other entities that?
I think that you can, the way I'm thinking about, if we're talking about a workshop, that's not creating a forum, it's not appropriate to create a forum for somebody to market their services. That, if we're gonna have a workshop, we should have a workshop to determine whether South Coast, the county, or a contractor is the appropriate vehicle to do this. But we might, I feel like it might be a little short-sighted to go directly to a workshop right now. I think the best thing to do would be to accept the grant, and then if you'd like, I can contact South Coast Food Share and see if they're interested. And if they're not interested, then we have an issue where we can go
Go out to bid.
out to bid or keep it in-house, but that's where you're gonna need to have and then, you know, and again, it's sort of, I kind of think you sort of have already stated it. We have the capacity to do it. Do we keep that revenue in-house, or do we send it out and not worry about it? I think that might be a little bit, it might be a little bit selfish on the part of the county, but it might not either. I mean, we have people that we're sort of in the grant writing business, so and grant administration is part of that. So something to think about. But the main thing is, you know, I think she just clarified it really well too. This is just for infrastructure. It's for infrastructure support to make sure that we can get the food down here. And now, would it be appropriate to have a workshop and bring South Coast Food Share down here and then have that conversation as part of this? Yeah, I think that would be I think that'd be a really good thing, because when all of a sudden you hear that she's having to go to Fred Meyer, and we're lucky to have Fred Meyer, but they're not, that's an expensive way to buy food that you're giving away. It's only, there are a couple of places you could go and you know, that's more expensive, but it's really hard to find them.
So if I may?
Yeah.
So you would be in favor, at least initially, of recommending a workshop?
I would. I love what Alcorn said, Commissioner Alcorn said that, you know, to accept the grant, because we can't delay this.
Yeah.
If we don't have some infrastructure at South Coast Food Share, we're not going to continue to get food like we should. I can just tell you, pre-pandemic, we could get 50 to 75 items every week.
Yeah.
We're down to 9 to 10 items that we can order. So that makes us have to go to Grocery Outlet, Fred Meyer's, McKay's to buy our food. And it's not cheap. And so that's the reason why, first of all, I came to you this morning and said, you know, we need to have some of this ARP. And the other thing is if you do accept it, yes, we can have a conversation or a workshop about, okay, so what does this look like now? And I think the best thing is to shore up South Coast Food Share, so we won't have an issue. Them calling us up on a Monday morning and say, sorry, we can't bring food this week. We have no drivers.
Yeah.
We have no truck.
And Pam, my understanding was Friday at 11 o'clock, the food bank had to close.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, just
Yeah.
you know, the pandemic has been one thing, but there's just a lot of things like food.
It's going to
Like-
become a bigger and bigger issue.
Yes. And come March 1st, it's really going to be, we're going to be inundated. And so it's, you know, I agree with what you guys are saying. I think that the grant should be accepted. Find somebody to administrate it, whether it be South Coast Food Share or somebody right here in the county. You know, Summer went through the class. I mean, whoever you do, but this is going to help us in the long run, and that's what we need.
Okay.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
That's it. Okay with the board?
Any other discussion? I mean, we can discuss even after the motion, so.
Yeah.
Court?
Just, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the grant and tentatively schedule a workshop for our next meeting.
Okay.
After that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Thank you,
Thank you.
Pam.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a
Okay.
great day.
Stay dry going back.
Thanks. I will.
Next up on the agenda is adult P&P, parole and probation, and juvenile department request for Oregon opioid settlement, prevention, job description, and budget approval. And who was that, brought that to the board?
I think that was,
Sergeant Denny?
Captain McDonald.
Captain Phil.
Oh, I didn't see
He got
him.
called out of town last night for his
Okay.
mom going to pass away. So,
Oh,
so he's,
are you here to speak about this, or?
I don't have the information with me. So.
Okay.
So we hold it off till the next meeting?
Yes, I don't know if Wendy,
Is there anything we need to accept regarding it?
Let's just take a quick look at that.
so we discussed this last year,
Let's see.
right?
Was this already approved?
It came before the board. Yeah, so this was just gonna be an update.
I think we were, was this the one we were talking about, the,
The opioid settlement.
Yeah, so I remember attending this I remember attending this meeting before my election, and this is a really good program.
Yeah.
It benefits both the sheriff's department and
Juvenile.
probation.
Yep.
So,
I believe it's a reoccurring,
yeah.
money that's coming in. It's like 100 grand that, we were going to, that you guys apparently approved, initially.
Yep.
And if you had any questions that, he was going to answer them, but, it was already set in stone, basically, how you guys were going to handle this. It was going to hire somebody with certifications to manage that position. So they just needed to go approval to go ahead and get started on that.
So yes, it's for a new employee for this process, and you just spoke to it, and the job description looks good to me, and yeah, good program, and the sheriff just confirmed. I think we know that it's going to be somewhat sustainable in the funding, I believe.
Yeah, and then,
Reasonable confidence, anyway.
So since it's already been approved, maybe we can just put it on another agenda. for
yeah, and Phil
discussion.
could talk to
Yeah.
it, yeah, when he gets back. You know, initially, parole and probation, juvenile, and myself and ADAPT met and discussed this, and it was whoever comes up with the person first. That's the trying to get somebody to do this is the hard part, and ADAPT is like we just don't have the person, and they're more than happy to let the county go look for that person, and so.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm not aware that we already approved this new position. Did we?
I believe that this is I think that it would be appropriate to approve the job description and the
Today.
budget approval.
That's what I was
I think
trying
we should,
to
I think we
get at
should
it.
do that. now.
Yeah,
job
I didn't think we
description.
did, so
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion on that.
Okay.
To approve this new
Opioid.
don't ask me to spell it, for goodness sake, there's 3 I's in it, I think, but the opioid settlement funding for a addiction specialist for Curry County.
And I would second that.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Thanks, John, for your little to no input, but it was much appreciated. Yeah. I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm your liaison. But anyway, that's
Proud of that.
inside joke. Okay, Roadmaster signature 6C.
Actually, it's 9:42.
It's 9:42. So
Yeah, so
Rich, sorry, bud.
because Rich is probably going to be doing, it's going to take longer than that.
Yeah. So thank you for that. We're going to go to. Can we do your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate the board giving us 3 presentations today and allowing that time on our very busy schedule, but I'm really proud to recognize these three presentations today, and I think you find them interesting. We've tried to keep them at minimal time. But the first one is Curry County Public Lands Access. I've been involved with them and watching for almost 8 years now, and it's a lot of people you know. It's a lot of people who have been in the community a long time. I won't offer specific names, but again, people you are quite familiar with. And the work that they do in the backcountry, they love opening trails. They love cleaning culverts. They are very fire conscious. They work well with the managing agencies of our forest, including Curry County. And I have Lori Hawkins here today that is going to give us a 10-15 minute presentation. Tell us a little bit more about what they do. Very proud to recognize them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us. Lori Hawkins, as he said. I'd sent a PowerPoint in. Do we have that?
Eric, do we got a PowerPoint? Nope.
Okay, that's fine.
HBot.
Not a problem. So,
Lori, I can go back and find that and forward it to him, I think. Would that work?
JJ,
it probably doesn't matter, Court. It's fine. I have the copy.
After all the work you did on this?
I didn't
We'll
do
try.
it. I've used it before.
Okay.
So I didn't do anything particularly special. Sorry. I can just go forth if you'd like. Didn't take less time. So Curry Citizens for Public Access was born of a bunch of people that were always interested when the topic of roads came up, particularly closing roads, public access, national forest roads mostly. Several of us are retired Forest Service, and we have just about every other retiree you can imagine, and lots of people still working. So we were formed in early 2015. We work on a membership basis, and we carry an annual membership of between 70 and 100 families, mostly Curry County families, but not all, concerned about road closure, road maintenance limitations, and management decisions that result in a reduction of access to public lands and facilities and rivers. We're a 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit public benefit corporation, and we fund our administrative expenses through our dues, basically. $25 buys a family membership for a year, and we've got a really solid base that folks up $25 every year just to keep their membership up. We don't see a lot of them, but they're faithful in that way, and that's important. That gets us insurance, it gets our post office box, our mailing fees, and all of that just to exist. Our commitment is to ensure that public lands and facilities remain accessible for our kids and our grandkids, and we're willing to put some skin in the game to help out. Our membership, as I said, is pretty diverse and represents a variety of interests, both motorized and non-motorized. Some people think that we're just all motorized type people, but we got people from all interests in just being out there on the public lands. That diversity of our membership also brings us a ton of skills, knowledge, equipment, and experience we can draw from. We've got just in our our board and whatnot, we've got Dan Crumley, roadmaster extraordinaire. We've got engineers, we've got fabricators, we have Wayne Adams, Zip Fendrick,
Okay.
We got a lot of skills in our group. And when we need a little extra something, we reach out. We got a lot more equipment than what we use, in our daily work. So we can get a lot of stuff. If we need some mechanized brushing, we have companies that will do it for us and just charge us what their labor cost, not the going rate. So we can get a lot done with a little. And we participate on 3 fronts. One is we provide information and education to public land users, and we really try to promote responsible use. Resource damage kills us all. That's what gets things closed. So we really try to focus on that. We like to recruit volunteers, of course, and because we're out there a lot, we're able to share timely field data with the agency folks about things they may not know about. Another thing we do, which I think is one of the most important things we do, is we're able to submit substantive input to the agency planning initiatives, offering viewpoints from a perspective of local land users and citizens. The public input process isn't, trying to say this delicately, it underrepresents your next door neighbor's opinion. The guy that writes a letter that says, I don't want this, or I do like this, that doesn't mean squat when they put it all in a giant, humongous database, and there's a zillion letters from a zillion environmental groups and all of their people that are very scientifically based and have, professional biological opinions attached. And so my opinion or yours doesn't get much traction. Thankfully, we have a biologist in our group who can really help us give substantive input and earn us a seat at the table, which we can't get on our own as individuals. So I think that's a huge part of what we're able to do. And because our group is diverse, we don't have a real polarized position necessarily, because we do try to represent our group. So we give a pretty balanced bit of input, but it's different than most of what they get. So it gives us, well, Curry County folks, a way to push back a little on some of the things that really hurt public access and some other things. What you're probably most interested in is the work that we do. We donate our time and our equipment and our labor and plan work parties and get out there and fix roads. Mostly roads, a little bit of trails. So many of the trails are wilderness trails. You know, that's not our thing. We dabble a little. We have some partners, but and we have a real lack of motorized trails here. That's what, you know, a lot of people in our group are really interested in, is getting some more motorized trails.
Those old motorcycle riders, Zip
Yeah,
and Dan. Yeah.
That's a tough sell, but we don't want to give up any ground on anything we have either.
Lori, staff found the,
Oh, great. If you could flip forward a couple pages, we'll catch up.
thanks, Eric. While you're looking
That's-
there, this was
that's
also
good right
put
here.
on the agenda for the routing slip, so the three links that you gave me. So you wrote me Wednesday at 1:30, so I did drop the ball, though I don't think I got it to staff Jesuit, but
That's
it did go on the agenda routing slip.
It's fine. The pictures are the only important part anyway. They're coming up. So we schedule work parties and get out there and fix things. Now, we're just, frankly, a couple of dozen old guys usually. A girl once in a while, and kids. We love to have kids. But we have, you know, Zip's got a little dozer, we got a couple little backhoes, and we got saws and a lot of heart for the work. So we do get quite a lot done, though we're small at times. We do a lot of roadside brushing, catch basin cleaning, slump repair, and we've even replaced a couple of culverts, which is kind of amazing for a group like ours. Other projects you may not know about, you know, we work at river access. That's a highlight of ours, and we do that in partnership with ODF and W, with some of their private landowners. We worked on the Chetco, the Sixes, and the Rogue. Portugal Beach is a great partner. So we work on their river access. Zip maintains that ATV track at Canfield. Zip spends a lot of time there. And we did, with Dave's help, and Walter, we did the life jacket loaner station through a grant from the Marine Board. We try to hit the parade every year just to let people see who we are and what we're doing. We try to show, you know, both the equipment that we're using and some of the uses we're trying to maintain. That would be me on the horse. And we have a lot of fun with that every year, and we get a lot of people say, we see your signs out there, and we didn't know who you were or what you were. We try to post signs at our work projects, and I will say our signs are really respected. Our signs don't get shot up, they don't get torn down. Bear can be a little hard on them, but that's it. If you want to go to the next page there, just more parade pictures. We were able to get a tool trailer, partially funded by a grant through the Gold Beach Community Foundation. We were able to buy tools through a grant from the Three Rivers tribe. And we were able to get, you know, we have great first aid, we have an AED, you need it with our workforce. And we take safety very seriously. Yep. You know, we have a soft certification just like everybody else, and all of that. If we go on, we can see some work pictures. Some of these are older, but that's just the kind of stuff we do, is take a road that looks like that and just work it and get it cleaned up. They usually look a lot better when we're gone, and you can just flip through these. That car we pulled out of if we wouldn't have pulled it out, it'd still be there, and it'd be there forever.
Yeah.
And eventually got towed away, but we try to keep keep the water where the water's supposed to be, and beat the brush back, which is a never-ending issue. We spent a lot of time on the Skyline Road. Our process is we submit a request to the Forest Service for permission to work on a certain road, and then, of course, their specialists have to check it out and do their process, and so we try to keep that approval cumulative. So once we have approval, we hope to keep it forever, and then we keep going back. So some people think we're not getting very far around the whole district, but there's trouble spots that we just keep going back to. And some of these spots would take the road out completely, and these are roads that wouldn't get work from anybody else. So if we don't do it, they'd be closed. They would grow in, they would have some sort of failure that would be big enough to block the road, and unless there was a timber sale on the other side someday, or a fire on the other side someday, they'd be lost forever.
Okay.
So that's the work that we do. It's not very dramatic to look at in photos, but
It's pretty dramatic.
it's
Beautiful.
we've done about over 100 miles worth of road since we
That's great.
started.
Well, this one strikes home. We got, we have our park up Lobster Creek Road, so. Is this, do you know if these pictures are above the park or?
They'd be on National Forest.
Okay.
So they'd be above that, yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
another thing you didn't mention, and I really want to highlight, I've kept, the time I've been commissioner here, the letters that you've responded, anything from endangered species to fire management, the professionals. You mentioned a diverse group. I can't stress that enough, and the reason I've kept those letters because they're incredibly well written. I usually agree with them almost always, and very beneficial to not just Curry County but around Southern Oregon, and to get that perspective. And your group has stood up very well for both motorized and non-motorized use, and the generational thing also much appreciated.
We're all about multiple use. We think if there's going to be money spent to build a trail, it ought to be a trail that everybody can access. It's the only way we can keep them open, frankly, is to have every group have skin in the game. You can keep on flipping through the pictures. Don't have much more here. As I said, over 100 miles of road and trail work. Let's see. We were able to leverage some grant funds that came in using the Siskiyou Mountain Club to open up the Snow Camp Trail. We've worked the Potato Patch Meadow with ODF&W. Meadows are pretty important, and without volunteer meadow projects, the meadows will all disappear. They'll just all grow in and they'll be gone. And there's just not enough funding and projects to keep those pushed back. We did the pilot hole and icebox river access, as I said, Canfield ATV track. Got the tool trailer. We participated on the Wild Rivers Coastal Forest Collaborative. We're always represented there. We sat on the stakeholder group for the Rogue South Coast Multi-Species Conservation and Management Plan with ODF&W. We're on Trails Coalition. That's the Rogue Siskiyou Multi-Agency Trails Coalition. And there at the end here, there's just some more photos that are just kind of fun work photos. We have families that come out, and that's so great to see families that work in the woods. Lots of old guys and their dogs. It's helpful to have a tool trailer that we can secure things, and it's a little easier to mobilize on any given Saturday. It's kind of hard to track. One thing we're not very good at is reporting the hours we put in and documenting that. So I got to chase down our last year's numbers. And keep going one more. This is why we're here. It's all these kids. I think back to when my son was growing up, and he was the easiest kid ever. And one time when he was little, he was just being a pill, and I not going to figure it out because that's just not his nature. And I said, what on earth is going on with you? He said, Mom, I just need some time in the mountains. And I understood that because his daddy's like that.
Yeah.
And now his kids are like that. And it's important. These places are important for people to just be well. And if we don't work at it, you won't be able to get to a lot of them. It's just the reality. They'll just grow in and be gone. So that's why we have the skin in the game. One last slide. That's our sign. If you see that out there, that's where we've been. We appreciate the support. Court's always been a great supporter. And the sheriff and Dave's helped us out with some grants. That's our story. That's who we are. People ask how they can help. One way to help is to become a member. That membership, as I said, is what allows us to exist in the financial world. People do donate, and because our dues pay those costs, all the donations go right to the ground. They go right into fuel mostly. And share the word. And then, we do have grants. We'll be applying for the next round of RAC grants whenever that comes up. So we'd appreciate support there. And mostly, when you see a sign like that and you happen to know a CCPLA member, tell them thanks. Because it's kind of invisible, but they spend an awful lot of hours out there. We had a crew out this weekend, 3 different groups, just kind of split up the ground and just did storm patrol, just to see what's happened in the last few weeks, and ended up cutting their way in and cutting their way out, and it's terrible weather. They went anyway, because that's who they are, and they're really committed. And I wish I could say I get out there and help them, but I do not. I kind of help them from this side of the podium, but it's a great group. I'm proud to be a part of it, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I make a real quick statement?
Yes.
Court, thank you for bringing this to the attention of the community. This group is a wonderful group of people. I think all of us fit the description of old guys, so I challenge each one of you guys and myself to join as a membership for that. It's worthwhile. They support us. We support them. Thank you.
And it will be on our website so that people can get an interest there, hopefully.
We're going to take a break. Mrs. Hawkins, don't leave. I want to talk to you. We're going to meet back here at 10:15, and that was awesome.
Thank you again,
We'll
Mr.
break
Chair.
till 10:15.
Arrest blind man for having a cane. On the 31st of October, James Hodges was taking a walk down a street in Lake City, Florida.
Welcome back. We're jumping right back into action discussion items. 6C Roadmaster Signature Authority for $31,200. Peterson Cat quote, purchase and install rebuilt motor for road department, 924 front end loader. Rich Christensen, Roadmaster.
Morning, Board.
Morning.
This is bringing back the item from the January 4th meeting where there was a lot of questions, and I took all those questions and brought them. I had my foreman bring them to Caterpillar, and also I looked at other ones, but I could go over a few of those things, but Caterpillar expressed that there was no misuse or bad operation of the equipment.
Is that based on the thing that you submitted?
Yes.
The Caterpillar report?
Yeah, and
Where
so
they pulled the valve cover and...
They didn't pull that yet, but they're just talking in general of the questions that I submitted to Bob to submit.
So how did it fail?
It's just something that happened, it wasn't from disrepair, and so things happen. It has a little over 4,000 hours on it. It's 2005. It's been in the field now for 13 years or whatever, but
If I may, Mr. Chair.
More than that, 2005. So.
yeah, 2000.
You know, what, all we would, if I may, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All we would have is speculation unless we have evidence that one of our operators did something inappropriate. I mean, we can't say. We
Well,
can't
really?
speculate.
Well,
We gotta have evidence.
is
Well-
there a way to plug in a machine
Yes,
to read the?
this equipment, we talked about that actually last night. Caterpillar was at our shop, and we did talk about that. It's right at that cusp where that capability of hooking into the motor, and when the CAT works on it, they're going to do that
Okay,
and
so
try to analyze that.
So then you don't have it. The problem was, I was gonna have to recommend we don't work with Caterpillar anymore because actual equipment dealers don't say that. They don't say, no idea, not when you're spending a couple $100,000 on a piece of equipment. They look at it and that particular 05, an 05, you can plug it in. So I think that statement that you made was inaccurate because I can't imagine that they would say, just no, we've answered all the questions.
Well, they did, dig into the motor, and they pulled
Uh-huh.
the valve covers, and they saw that the valve stem was mushroomed, and that it had dropped a valve, and so they did an inspection, and so, but the things that were talked about, as we were trailing it, we were driving it down roads, steep roads, and governors. We asked them all those questions, and they said this wasn't due to that, and so.
Who said that? Because I need to call him.
Okay,
That's
Bob was supposed to be here, and he got busy, asked if he couldn't be here, and so I'll get you that contact information, but Bob handled that directly.
okay. Yeah, maybe I could talk to Bob because
So-
the thing is that normally when you have an expensive piece of equipment and it goes down, my concern is if it was operator error, then the county would be looking in the wrong direction to replace that machine. So it really is important to figure out what happened and to have policies and procedures where very expensive piece of machinery, if they're not being handled right, just break down and then we start over again. So maybe in the old days, Court, you didn't have to do that, but if it's a 2005, you can plug in the ECM and you'll be able to see. It'll even say exactly. It records everything that goes on in the engine. So I think it's important that we do our due diligence.
But if one of our, Council Fitzgerald, one of our employees has an accident, do we do a major investigation to see, I mean, don't we generally assume that it was accidental and, I mean, sometimes gathering data is,
Yeah, I think
really
gathering
important.
data is really important.
Well,
Sure.
I know where I used to work, if there was an accident that cost the city money, there would be an investigation to determine the cause of the damage, and then there would be preventative measures put in place so it didn't happen again. And then if the individual had any negligence regarding it, they'd be trained to prevent it from happening again. And I think it's important to follow a similar practice here. It sounds like the machine that would connect to the equipment would yield any evidence of that. And I'm sure, like you, we don't want to see that. We want to fix it and then have it happen again. So
it is true. You said the old days, like on a boat, 3 engines, we didn't have that 20 years ago where you could.
Right, you had to guess.
But
You just tried to avoid those times. You tried to learn what you could. You tried to do good maintenance. And yeah, you tended to trust people that work for you. So.
But the $31,000 replacement cost actually brings up a much bigger issue that we have to deal with. And that's based on an email that I got from Richard last night, which is concerning. So I'm going to try to break this down because it's a little bit confusing. But so as you know, we've had a disaster, right? And Monica has applied for funding to relief for that disaster, right? So it's federal that she's seeking, which is a 25% shared cost by us. But that covers this cost, it covers the fuel cost, it covers the operator cost, it covers damage to the ports, it covers the fire departments that were out
Clearing.
working during the disaster. It covers the police department's responses to that. It covers the municipalities, our cities. It covers them. And it also impacts 4 other counties. And we're aware of that. So a big component to seek that money is what's happening on North Bank Road and the cost associated to that. So that is what's meeting the threshold to apply for the federal funding. So everybody follow me so far?
And you're not talking FEMA, you're talking something else.
No, you're talking FEMA.
Oh, FEMA, okay, FEMA, okay, FEMA.
So you're following me
Yep.
so far? Okay.
Be nice if we had an email, but.
So, well, last night Richard's email told me that he had applied for state funding for the North Bank Road. So if Richard's request goes through and they start working on that road, anything that we're trying to do with federal money is done. So it affects all that stuff. So, Richard, did you coordinate this through Monica at all?
Absolutely. And,
Monica was
but,
aware.
but,
Monica was aware that you were going to submit?
yeah,
this?
she was, well, no, let's back up a little bit. I totally worked with Monica throughout this event. I explained to her at the time when the state reached out to me to do a disaster report,
See if she'll come over.
do a disaster, it's called DDIR. And I did this report and I involved Monica with that. And at the time, we didn't understand that this was different than anything that we had worked on in the past. I had FEMA in the brain, okay, and so did Monica. And Monica didn't see any problem with filling out this DDR and going through this process. While going through this process, they emailed me yesterday, and that's when I forwarded it to the board, or CC'd the board after email it to Monica, that they're looking at the state and Federal Highway Administration. They want to fund the North Bank Road slide and the Sixes River slide through ER funds. And if these 2 projects are completed within 270 days, 9 months, and we're off track of the loader, but see Bob came in. And so, and this is more like the next topic, but if we get it done within 270 days, that they will pay 100% of the fix for both these slides. There will be 0 money coming from the county.
Right.
And so now if it complicates the other entities, it needs to be part of the discussion and what that is. And so this is new information that came in. I've totally worked with Monica Ward through this whole process. I was so surprised to see it. Hey, we'll pay 100%. You know, because my whole time I was working on this, I was worried this is going to be a $4 million project. There's going to be $4 million going out of the road reserves, and we're going to have to wait. And FEMA will cover 75, and we'll get $3 million back, but we'll be out of pocket $1 million. And so when I saw this email saying, hey, we'll pay 100% if you get it done in 270 days, that means this event, this slide happened on December 28th. So 270 days is maybe like mid-September, early September. If we could get it done before then, we could get the slides done for free, is what the state
Right.
Federal Highway Administration said.
And I get that, but I talked to Monica last night, and she was completely unaware of this. And
Well,
and I, throughout this emergency, Richard, when I've been communicating with Monica as her liaison, she hadn't spoke to you at all, not once.
I disagree.
Well,
I disagree. I have emails, and
Well-
I
well, I asked her every day if she talked to you, and she said she didn't. But if there's a really big picture with the FEMA request, because it does impact 4 other counties. It impacts a lot of folks under that umbrella. And, you know, this is a board issue, Richard. It's not a roadmaster issue. This is a decision that we should be making.
Everything I do is do through the board, and
Never-
I'm not signing.
Richard, you
anything.
never talked to me about this at all. And maybe, I don't know, did he talk to you guys about it?
I've sent emails. I kept everybody in loop through emails.
Yep. I've seen emails.
And I've done that.
Richard, you've never talked to me about this.
Well, maybe not talk with through emails I have. I always send to the Board of Commissioners. And I always send to the Board of Commissioners, and I CC Monica, or I send it to Monica and CC the Board of Commissioners. And also there's where the Commissioners is one email that says Commissioners, I send it to that. And so you should be getting that information.
Well, when I saw this last night, I was surprised. I was surprised because of the lack of communication with the
So
emergency
you're saying I'm doing a
services
bad
director.
job and I'm not following?
Wait, hold it.
Yeah.
Are you saying, so you're saying that you communicated to the Board of Commissioners that you intended to submit this through ODOT before you did it?
No, what I
Okay,
did.
that was the question.
point.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make, Richard.
Well, maybe I'm misunderstanding your question. What's your question again?
Are you saying that you submitted your intention to the Board of Commissioners to submit this emergency claim through ODOT prior to your doing it?
I have to look at the emails.
So, well, I mean, that's...
So the thing is, but I have been totally working with Monica, and Monica's totally been in the loop with this whole process. As soon as the state reached out to me, I forwarded it to Monica, and she could look at it from Teresa DeWald, and I brought up this DDIR, you know, and Monica, we talked, and she approved me filling out this DDIR, and so, like I said, at that time, we had the impression that this was like going to be FEMA funded, okay? But last night, when I got the information from from the state, from Teresa and FHA, they said they want to do it through ER funding. Doesn't mean we have to. I haven't signed anything, and so this all needs to go through the board.
Well, and that's what I want to make sure that we understand, because that's a difficult decision for us to make, is which direction to go with that.
Can we rewind just a little bit, Mr. Chair? First of all, I don't understand the ODOT connection.
Okay, so FEMA is on both sides. Okay, when there's an emergency, what we did, we were all present for it. Everybody agreed. You were at the meeting. We all agreed that we were going to do an emergency declaration.
Last week, yes.
We did a county emergency declaration. Now, that's if there's enough damage throughout the state, then and it's described that what we did was try to prime the pump by getting our own emergency declaration out early, because we saw we had the first thing was the North Bank slide, and we're like, wow, that's a big one, and then there's more stuff coming. So we did the emergency declaration. We get that out there. Other counties around the state also are impacted by these very same storms. If that reaches the minimum threshold, and Monica probably knows it, I can't remember what it is, per state, it's based on your population. If you reach a certain amount, then and the state itself declares an emergency, which you have to get the governor to do that.
And the governor is already trying to catch up to California, correct?
Right.
Has already done that through FEMA to start, as you said, prime the pump.
Right. So once you've got it, then you have to have enough damage. You have to have enough damage for FEMA to say, wow, okay, we're gonna come deal with it. For example, here's a great example. During the tsunami in California.
Wait, you said California?
Yeah, because California was so huge, they based the damage amount on the population of the state, whether FEMA is let loose on that project, right? So California, you may wonder why the Port of Crescent City and the Port of Brookings had relatively similar damage, but we were able to fix ours for $6 million. But the Port of Crescent City was like $35 million.
So that's just good management. Who was there at that time?
Well, no, actually, I mean, they unfortunately, they magnified their disaster to meet, because they didn't have any money otherwise, so they really ended up doing a more gargantuan fix because they didn't have any choice. So with us, we have way less people in our state, so we have a very much smaller threshold we have to meet. It was not much, and I want to say it was $6 or $8 million, and I think Brookings did it itself. And same thing here, which is probably a little bit higher now because our population's grown statewide, but with the damage just for the North Bank slide, like Richard says, that's between $3 and $4 million. That was his estimate from some years ago, I think.
It's from the stormwater master plan, and it's based on a soldier pile wall. And, you know, a lot of things, and it's not saying that's going to be a repair, right? Because that's a real big repair, and we're going to talk about
right,
that
exactly. We don't even know what it could, we don't even know what it could cost.
You know, road department hasn't made any decisions here. We're still doing all the investigation. We're laying the groundwork to get this together, and we will get this together, and we are working with Monica Ward.
So,
and
I just want to say the
Just
issue,
a second.
The issue is, if ODOT spends any money on that North Bank slide, we're out. So we really need to stick on our original track, and we need to walk back whatever's been done, whatever communications or whatever's been filled out. We need to walk that back for the benefit, because there's a lot of other damage. You know, for example, the engine breakdown.
That's one of
That's
many.
what's one. But I mean, we're talking about, theoretically, you could talk about the people who are out there clearing the Forest Service roads. Well, you know, if they were keeping track of their time, that was a storm response as well. All of that stuff across the county. Think about this: every local fire department in Curry County went out and was clearing roads. I mean, not everyone, but I sure ran into it at 1:30 at night. They were out clearing roads because nobody else was doing it. All those people expended funds. There's all damage at the ports. We don't, you know, who knows with whatever happened, but you get all that added up, and it's a big chunk of money, and that money can be used as our overall matching amount that can be applied toward the, you know, the difference with, if we're doing the federal funding, Richard said, you know, 75% FEMA, 25% match county, okay? If ODOT does it on those two individual things, the Sixes River slide and the North Bank slide, ODOT will pay 100%, and so there will be no matching by the county. But that will also take out the emergency declaration possibility for Curry County and for the remaining associated counties.
Which I apologize, because that was a much more articulate explanation
Well,
of what I was trying to express to you, because that's a difficult decision for us to make.
Yeah.
I follow you. Now, I want to answer your question with a public response. Did Roadmaster Christensen contact me? He was sick for a week, or I think we probably would have been on the phone, but we did go out to the north slide and do it. You know, that's when I said, hey, my vote is to close this road. I'm looking at the wires up there. I've got pictures. So I supported him on that. And we had the engineer there, Chris. And so that's the correspondence we had. And I want you to know, he wasn't going around his liaison or anything. It's just we build a relationship. And when he calls and we have times like that, it's all hands on deck. So that's why I responded and went out there. And I've been out there a couple of times since.
Thank you for clarification.
Yeah, and I think you deserve an answer on that, and the public does. So I want to conclude, what I need to communicate here. How did Roadmaster Christensen, pursuing a possible state option jeopardize? I mean, and I think you've clarified that, but shouldn't he follow through on that anyway? I mean,
Nope.
I felt like,
No, absolutely not.
Well, how does that jeopardize, though, if he just does his homework and the state contacts
Because
him?
he's not doing the homework. He's
Going beyond that.
he's submitted documentation regarding that slide, and that should have been, I'm sorry, we had an existing track that everybody was running on. Now, whether it was a breakdown in communication between Monica and Richard Christensen, that we have to have you got to have some sort of organized plan.
One
here,
voice,
right?
yeah.
That's what
Yep.
we have to have that, and everybody going off in every different direction and working on different things. This right here. Puts us in a, we got issues with that particular slide in a lot of concerns. I mean, I don't know exactly. Like Richard says, it's still open whether how it's going to be funded. Is FEMA going to pay for it? We don't know. Also, what's the nature of the fix that will actually be something that FEMA would agree to pay for? It probably won't be anything similar to what is there now.
It may be diverting the river.
I mean, because the fix we had
Sooner
now.
hold back the
Richard,
tide.
Richard, when was it last? When was it last? When was that place repaired?
Doug Robbins replaced it, I want to say, in 2017.
2017. So that it had slipped, and the previous roadmaster came in and did a repair on that.
Was there an engineer involved in that?
I think it was engineered.
It was permitted through U.S. Army Corps.
So it had to be
Engineers.
engineered then. I would. Yeah.
So, and it was fully permitted. And I've been working with U.S. Army Corps on this current project. Been working with Rogue Watershed Council. I've been working with the local geotech firm. I've been working with retaining wall firms that helped us with the when the road slid out there on Gardner Ridge. We're following the exact same processes that we did with Gardner Ridge. I filled out a DDIR for Gardner Ridge, and we were funded a FEMA. I didn't do anything different this time than I did last time, okay? All I get is an email yesterday saying, hey, ER funding, FHWA, 100% yesterday, and I forwarded that to everybody. It doesn't mean we have to go that direction, but I think, to Commissioner Boyce's point, we should look at everything and make the best decision with all the information. And, I'm sure the state would be willing to come down here and talk with us and about this whole thing to see which direction is best for us.
ODOT's going to be an ally with FEMA and
We have
all
a
the
great
other
working
counties.
relationship with them.
Yeah.
That seems to me to be the breakdown. It seems like maybe just common sense. FEMA should say, there's an emergency, you got a huge problem, but the state is willing to pay 100% of this North Bank and Sixes River fix? I mean, I know it doesn't work with common sense with FEMA and state, but that only makes sense. But I see what you're saying. If we don't have that $4 million in the bucket, FEMA says, oh, you don't qualify.
Also,
And so, Monica, can you speak to any of this as far as?
You know what? This is really like, we got totally off subject of the loader motor.
Yeah, we
and pumps
did.
Here.
But
Can
the
we-
loader,
can we get-
motor falls under the umbrella of
Okay,
FEMA funding.
thank you.
Well, she's coming up. FEMA is famed as well. We have her and Roadmaster Christensen, and actually probably you have more FEMA experience than anybody else in the county. So we're going to need to rely on that, obviously. And I think
Agree.
you picked up on that.
Agree.
And I'll just leave it at that for now. Thank you.
All right, so.
Our bases are well covered.
Thank you. Monica Ward, Curry County Emergency Management. So when Richard first approached me on the DDIR, I expressed my concern with this practice. Oregon is not the only state that this is a common practice where ODOT will ask for these DDIRs to potentially cover repairs to local roads. We are now seeing the problem with this practice. So the DDIR, when you think about this process, I'm going to compare it to grants. That DDIR is like a letter of interest where we're just saying we're interested in your assistance. Problem is that the repairs and the movement, it's happening too quickly. So yesterday I did immediately contact Oregon Department of Emergency Management, brought it to their attention because state agency to state agency, they need to have that conversation to just slow the process down. It was a letter of interest, not a yes, please come fix our road right now. So we need to slow that process down. Sadly, it is a common practice here in Oregon to where the local counties can be asked to submit these DDIRs. But nothing should occur without the county's approval to move forward on any work on those projects. So we will be put in a situation to where, yes, ODOT can come in and fix these 2 roads and cover 100% of the costs. But at the same time, Oregon is looking into, if that occurs, what is the impact going to be on the threshold, which is $7.4 million in damages for us to be able to file that federal declaration. So Oregon is, between those 2 state agencies, they're assessing right now, what is the impact if these 2 roads are taken out of the damage assessments. We will not know until mid next week at the earliest, because right now Curry County and 3 other counties are going through damage assessments. We have to submit all of our paperwork to the state by close of business on Monday. At that point, they can look at the overall costs and to fix all these damages within these 4 counties. So the process just needs to slow down. Our 2 state agencies need to talk to each other, and I appreciate ODOT trying to fix these roads and help us out, but we do need to slow the process down because of the impact it may have on our ports that have damages. Port of Port Orford just called me, and they have excessive shoaling, so they're going to have issues with getting their boats into the port now. Port of Brookings Harbor spent an excessive amount of money trying to clear debris. Port Orford had 3 water main breaks and lost a pump station. We had fire districts out there, our volunteers working just to clear debris. So they spent their district's money to clear debris instead of responding to fires. And that's just within our county. So you guys, I do not want to be in your shoes when it comes down to the decision on, are we going to take the ODOT's offer, or are we going to try to go after the federal declaration? Because that's going to be a difficult choice, because it's not just us that's impacted. 3 other counties are included in this declaration. So do we want to pay 25% and eat that cost, knowing that all of our districts in our jurisdictions and our neighboring counties are going to get that assistance, or are we going to go ahead and let ODOT fix these 2 roads and everyone else eat the cost? So that's a decision that will have to come down to our board, but we will not know how many damages are associated with these storms until mid next week at the earliest, and that's if everyone meets their suspense to submit the reports to OEM. So right now, ODOT and OEM should be meeting to discuss just slowing down on any further movement. I was aware of the DDR being submitted. I did have my back and forth with OEM expressing my concern about this practice. They said, work doesn't have to be done. It's just like a letter of interest. And I was like, okay. OEM's saying okay. Still not comfortable with it. I don't.
Still not what, I'm sorry?
Comfortable
I
with
do
it?
not believe that ODOT, that Richard knew that ODOT had removed me from all email communications.
Say that
So-
again?
Say that again, Monica.
ODOT, so Teresa had removed me from all email communications. So from the day that Richard submitted, well, I told Richard that OEM's like, this is common practice. I have not received any of the email communications between Richard and ODOT. So Richard had asked Teresa to make sure that I was on those email communications. I was removed.
Okay.
Why?
I'm not sure. OEM is aware that I was removed from the
So
email
do we
traffic
have a
as
new
well.
OEM director for Oregon?
We have an interim director,
Is that Doug Graff?
Matt.
Matt, excuse me, I'm
Yes.
sorry. They're buddies. So.
Yes.
Yeah, so-
Matt is the interim director.
Do you have a contact there, Court? Can you fix that?
Yeah. I'm sitting here in shock and very happy to know that we're getting to the bottom of this, but
Yes.
not happy to hear that you've been removed. Thank you for acknowledging that Roadmaster Christian assumed you would be included.
Yes.
So,
And it's one of those where I believe going forward, just this is a lesson learned that we need to make sure when we are getting email communication from our partners that we verify who's in the CC line, because when I was removed, the first thing that I heard about this was yesterday when Richard forwarded us that email.
well, that's just absolutely unbelievable and unacceptable. So we'll find out.
But I'll tell you, I don't look at that. When I get an email with a ton of, I don't care who got that email. I don't look. Am I just odd?
I know the impacts that can have, so I'm following it, and then when I need clarification, Monica's been great about providing it. And it does have, it has a more people are affected by this than we would imagine, and we need to take that in consideration. I agree with Monica. This is a difficult decision to make, and there's a lot of facts to weigh in on that.
Yep.
So,
And I would just like to point out that from, you know, if you're talking about, you know, as you go forward, you're talking about how this affects all 4 counties. Those other 3 counties are your allies in a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I think that you just have to be really aware of all of that, and that's why clearly this is a board issue. It is not a road department issue.
So
I think that way more communication needs to be happening here.
oh, absolutely. Are you confident that you're in the loop? So they're meeting next week or soon?
So last night, actually yesterday afternoon, as soon as we received the email from Richard, I did go ahead and forward the information to Oregon Department of Emergency Management and just ask them to get to the bottom of this and assist us with it, because I voiced that my primary concern is that it's going to affect the federal declaration, not just for our county, but our other counties. We are a team. We rely on each other for mutual aid. So if we essentially burn them by getting rid of the federal declaration by pursuing another route, I'm not sure how the feelings would be with that. Once again, I would not want to be in your shoes for this decision, because there is a lot of factors that come into this. But OEM and ODOT should be meeting today. I know that last night the emails were forwarded to the appropriate personnel within OEM, and OEM's had great dialogue with me throughout this entire process. So as soon as they have any updates, we will hear from them.
And as soon as I saw that email from Richard, I reached out to Monica to make sure that that was in progress. Court, if you have the contacts, can you make sure that she's included in the proper email correspondence in the future?
I made a note with all capital letters.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. So can we, real quick, just take a minute to talk about FEMA and the long-term delays that come with that? I mean, we did the Chetco Bar Fire, and Roadmaster Christian, I'm sorry, he was right in the middle of that, and boy, it took years to get reimbursed. Obviously, we're all concerned about the delays with the North Bank and what's going to happen next winter.
Right.
That doesn't mean we should take the first option that comes along, but
Therein is
just
the,
be aware.
there's the difficult decision that we
Yeah.
face. So I agree with you 100% on that. We've got to do some risk mitigation there, and make a wise decision, because I understand.
Very good.
Monica, the 7.9 million, is that a correct number?
7.4 million.
7.4 million, is that just for Curry County, or is that for the whole?
That's for the whole state. For Curry County, our threshold is just short of 111,000 for 2023. Every year, the number adjusts according to our population. Back in 2022, we were just over 96,000. For 2023, our threshold is now just shy of 111,000. And that's for us to meet our threshold to move forward with requesting assistance. And
So that's why Curry County's the popular girl at the dance right now.
So to me, so the most we can get from FEMA is,
there is no max on how much we can get from FEMA.
75%.
We just have to meet that threshold to be considered. For
and if we did this state thing for 4 million, or whatever that amount is, if they do 100% fix 2 roads,
That's it.
Totally, we don't get any FEMA.
the state is going through that assessment, and they probably will not have an answer until next week. Now that
Okay, so that's a possibility still.
I would not bank on it.
Well, I mean, but we're gonna wait, but
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's,
So the 4 counties are digging into and doing their damage assessments, and it's just the initial of how much have we paid, how many hours have gone into it, what are the invoices, and we're trying to get a solid estimate, because the last thing the state wants to do is apply for a federal declaration, and then we don't actually meet that threshold. So
Yeah.
they're trying to make sure that we're going to meet it. And Curry County was carrying the majority of the damages
Okay.
for all of us to get this federal declaration.
So we'll wait, and we can have a special meeting if we need to, or we'll be back here on the 1st of February, Wednesday the 1st, so.
We even need a workshop on it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
never opposed to that. So, Mr. Chair, are we?
We're still,
Roadmaster signature authority for the 31.
well, we got,
I want to wait on that until we know.
We've got Bob Halcom here.
So-
I'd
so
like
we-
to.
yeah, I don't want to wait, but go ahead, Bob, come on up.
Yeah, I don't want to wait either. We need the machine. I didn't realize I was going to be up here, but it's been down for a month now, and we're without it, and it's something we need. We explored all the possibilities and checked to see what would be the best route to take, and what we came up with was a remanufactured engine to be put in it, and make sure the other engine will turn over to get the $5,000 core charge back and get the machine back up and running. We talked to Brett Crozier yesterday. We're going to bring the machine to the shop and do the repair there with Peterson's help. I don't know. I'm kind of curious as to what the problem is why the money hasn't been made available and us repair the machine.
well, because we could possibly get this paid for through FEMA. That's that.
Well, no, I mean, it needs to, I mean, it's a decision because nobody had an explanation for why it broke down.
There is no explanation for that. It's a mechanical engine. I mean, they fail. I mean,
So
it's,
did you run it, I mean, did you plug a computer into it?
there again, it's not an electronic problem. It's a mechanical problem. It dropped a valve. I mean, that's
But
nuts and bolts.
So you're
It's
saying
not-
that you can't run an electronic diagnostic on that machine?
I don't know what good that would do. I mean,
It'd
you can.
tell you if it overspeeded, for one thing. It'd be recorded in the computer.
Regardless of how it occurred, it needs to be repaired. That's
Okay, but I
can't
never,
put it- I can't put it
asked
any-
you,
I
I
can't
did
put it
ask,
any
I
simpler.
did ask you a question.
Yes.
So could it be plugged, it's because normally in a business where you have a piece of equipment that fails, you try to troubleshoot it, figure out how that occurred, and if there's no explanation, then you're probably going to want to look at some other kind of equipment. But if there is an explanation, then you could either have a standard operating procedure that would make sure that your operators had the correct training to avoid that. If it was, in this case, overspeeding, which we don't know if it is or
The
not.
particular operator that was operating the machine worked for the Curry County Road Department for 30 years. He retired and he came back to help us. He's been operating machinery for his entire career. I can't imagine that he did anything to harm the machine. We would have had failures in the past, and we haven't.
And it's got a governor, right? I mean,
It does have a governor. That's what controls it. That's what keeps it from overspeeding.
Yeah.
That's what its job is.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion, subject to board approval if we can.
Well, we can make a motion, and we can still have discussion, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion for roadmaster authority, signature authority for the repair of the 924 front loader with the rebuild motor.
I have a question though. Before, are you interested in doing a diagnostic, or are you not? Because I think that you have I think that as the executive committee of this county, you have certain fiduciary duties, and it would be normal. I know that Bob Halcom has confidence in the operator. I don't know the operator. I'm not saying the operator, if he's been running equipment for 35 years, that's great. However, if there's something that needs
You want to
be-
make it the motion conditioned on the diagnostic?
No, I think you should definitely, I think if Mr. Halcom is saying that we need the new machine, I take him at his word with that. I agree with that, that we need the machine, unless we have something else that will work. But my concern is that if we're not willing to entertain the fact that the machine broke down for a reason, then I have concerns about how the road department's being run. I think we should be looking into this, and I think that since it is possible to plug this in, I called various CAT equipment managers. This is just a thing that I have some experience in. And so I called people. I'm not an expert mechanic, but I know a lot of people who work on that stuff. And they said, well, why don't you plug it into a computer? Why don't we plug it into a computer?
We can do that.
Good. That'd be good, because you told me just now that you couldn't imagine that it would be worth doing. So why would we? Why?
We can plug it in, but the fact of the matter is, the engine is broken and it needs to be replaced. Plugging it in, I can't see any point in it, really. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Bob, I think the point is to try to identify why it broke and then try to prevent it from breaking again in the future.
Dropped a valve.
So
Why did it drop a valve?
But the cause of dropping the valve would, if we could identify what that was, and there was something that we could do differently to prevent that in the future, then we don't have to spend $31,000 again. And that's the thought process behind identifying the cause.
We will be having a Peterson mechanic that lives in Pistol River that will be driving back and forth to the shop to effect this repair, and obviously he can do that.
Yeah, and that's.
I mean, if that's information that's important for you to have, then we'll get that information for you.
Yeah, I'd like to know the cause.
If there's anything in there that we can retrieve that would give us any indication as to why it failed, we can do that. Yes.
And if it's something simple that we can change procedurally or in a protocol that we don't do anymore, then we don't damage equipment in the future. And that's my thought process behind that is taking some preventative steps. And again, it may be just procedurally, we're going to load that thing on a trailer before we, transport it, we're not going to drive it down the road. Whatever procedurally we can change to prevent a $31,000 cost in the future is what I'm getting at.
So I can change or amend my motion, if you like, to include basically what you and Council Fitzgerald just identified. Number one. Number two, tied to the FEMA potential reimbursement. As part of, that's a long motion, sorry, Jay.
Well, the breakdown happened during the emergency response.
Right.
So that's why also when you're clarifying things to FEMA likes, they actually
detail.
You don't tell them it wasn't important to us, so we didn't do it. You give them the reason, and then they pay, or they don't. And if you lie to FEMA, then they show up with guns. So you want to be careful about what we do. They're a great group to work for, but I will tell you, when these guys show up, and when they show up and they start writing out the damage assessments, these are serious, incredibly professional people. Usually retired engineers that went to work for FEMA. You can't even believe the stuff they walk in, they can troubleshoot a thing. And that's why I'm not willing to just say, I say we actually troubleshoot the problem like professionals, and then we can seek reimbursement. That's why it's important to me, because the federal government is a serious organization.
But you're just jesting when you say they show up with guns.
No, I'm not. When they show up with, they say, like down there in the south where they have the tornadoes.
Hurricane.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on south of the Mason-Dixon line, and they have a very different response than they do up for the people in the Northwest, because
we got more guns.
No.
Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion then, Court, or just restate it if you could.
That we get the repairs done for the 924 front loader, with the condition that we collect all data that we possibly can related to the dropped valve, and then also tie it to the potential reimbursement with FEMA.
Okay. Do I have a second? I'll second that. Any other discussion, question?
Just processing the motion right now.
Okay.
I don't blame you.
Not that it was complicated, but I'm just processing it.
Some wording you'd like, that didn't set right, or what's up?
So when we have something that breaks and there's a need for it, we need to fix it.
Yep.
And if there's exigency behind it, then obviously that's an immediate fix. I don't know that there's exigency behind this. And I did see the quote, so we could rent a piece of equipment if we needed it for a day or a week. Yes, there's a cost to that, but it's not incredible. So I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to proceed with the vote, knowing that eventually we're going to fix this anyway. So I think I understand your motion now, Mr. Boyce. Go ahead with the vote.
Okay. All in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Thanks, guys, for that.
Bob, thank you. So I don't know where our 11 o'clock is, gentlemen.
Okay.
Forget
Well-
1 second.
Well, while we're waiting, let's do that public hearing. Ted?
Okay, we're going to open the public hearing on, let's see if we can find that.
Regarding changes to
While he's
county
looking,
code.
Eric, can you hear us okay?
Thanks, Deborah. Thanks.
See you later, guys.
Yeah.
Let's see, public hearing in the matter of an order amending procedures for accounts payable claims. No, is that the one? No.
Be 7A.
Here we go. In the matter of an ordinance repealing obsolete provisions and reclassifying certain divisions of county code. So that's what we're opening right now.
This is, what's the term we often use? Scrivener's error? No, I mean, you've cleaned up.
It's just basically cleaning up repealed ordinances.
I don't want to catch you flat-footed here. Just was a little curious about item B3, Council Fitzgerald, related to public health decisions. Is there anything that the board would need to know there down the road that might, that's a big issue, and
I'm not aware of it. These are all ordinances that have been actually either repealed by the board or repealed by the legislature in the past. So
that's
just a cleanup.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that anything's going to come back to bite you. There was a question about the Measure 37 compensation claim that was repealed by the commission in 2008, I think 2007, 2008, and about the time Measure 49 replaced the Measure 37 claim. But if there is somebody with an ongoing Measure 37 claim in Curry County, those rights they're not precluded by our removing this ordinance from the books. It would still.
The next one is we're probably not going to get the Brookings Airport back, correct?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. But there will be a Oregon Department of Aviation guy here tomorrow that I meet with at 9. Talk about Cape Blanco Airport, but we're getting off subject. So anybody from the public would like to speak to, for, against this public hearing? If not, we are going to close the public hearing, and it'll be, we'll meet back here again on that public hearing. It'll be finalized, right, Ted, in February?
Yeah, I believe so.
All right. Next.
I wonder if we have to.
Oh, you got your guy?
Can you get Eric's attention? I wonder if we have to go to a different go-to here for.
So we're going to presentations.
Curry Watershed Partnership.
Curry Watershed. Kelly.
Yeah, I have.
HBOT is at 11:45. Does that make it? Yeah, this is the 11 o'clock Curry Watersheds.
You know what? We didn't give them a virtual. They were just going to be here. So.
Oh, they didn't show up.
They've really been wanting to come, so I am, Mr.
Well.
Chair, totally baffled. And so I didn't ask you for a virtual, did I?
No.
I think they were going to be here. So, sorry, Eric.
Maybe
my
they're
mistake.
behind it. Anyway, they're not here, so let's move on, right? So we'll go back to discussion/action items. And Roadmaster Signature Authority to hire GRI and Dyer for $54,410 for survey and geotechnical report for repairs to the North Bank road slide. Commissioner, or Roadmaster Christensen again.
Yeah, real quick, just going back on the last subject, I just want to assure the board that my team has worked extremely hard this last month on all these storm events to keep all our roads open. We take our work very seriously and professionally. And so thank you for helping us with that loader. We have debris all over this county right now that we need to clean up. And in 2019, we had 2 FEMA events, back to back. We're not out of this yet.
Yeah.
you know, and this could get worse. I mean, look what's going on with California. And so thank you for helping us repair our equipment.
So Eric, if you can hear us, can you bring up the picture of the North Bank? It's been on there forever now. We need it and it's not. There it is. Thank you, sir.
Okay, this slide happened on December 28th when we first found out about it. And we immediately worked with the state and borrowed their message boards and their light tower. We put our traffic control out there. We did detour routes. It's a 9-mile detour around this for folks. This is from getting from Highway 101 to Turkeys, they call that little shop, is 3 miles, and to go Edson Creek Road is 9 miles. So people that are driving past that are driving an extra 6 miles than they normally would do, and that's part of the reason why we're trying to proactively work on this. And so when this immediately happened, I reached out to GRI, our local technician, Chris Ells. He's an engineer, and who we've used in the past with all our slide projects. And we're following the same processes. And so he helped us, you know, with setting up, you know, set up the sandbags and, you know, protect the slope as much as you can, and with the overland water. And he's proactively reached out to a drilling company that's part of this $54,000, and scheduled them for, if you approve this, they'll be out here January 30th to drill 3 holes through that slide to see what that geology is. A lot of it's that whole hillside's coming down. It's like a lot of decomposed rock. But with this geology report, they'll determine what the most best fix is. And so right now we're looking at what the master plan says, the soldier pile tieback wall, which is that real expensive Cadillac fix, and it may be that. But we're also looking at a gate-in wall. It's like a wire basket with rocks, and you anchor it in. And we're also looking at a riprap repair.
Just old cars and trucks stuffed up against the bank?
Now we ran out of stock of those.
Okay. Well, we saw one in the last lady.
Actually, I got a couple in the yard.
Mrs. Hawkins, yeah.
And but anyway, so we're closely working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and everything, and we're trying to get this road repaired as soon as possible. Like Gardner Ridge, this process takes a long time, right? And so, and it's an emergency. And so I brought Chris Ells here in case you had any questions about the contract. But part of this contract, there's 2 contracts in this for $54,000. One is $7,000 and $7,210 for Dyer partnership to come in and survey all that, because they need all those elevations as part of their engineer geotech report, along with all those soil conditions. And that way, that'll all be presented to the board. We're looking at mid-March, and for the board to determine what the fix is going to be. And they'll have 3 options. And so that's the process that we're doing right now. And so, and just kind of reiterate what I heard what Monica was saying and the board was saying, is that we've got to be careful we don't kill the goose for something smaller, that we look at the total cost of everything. And so, you know, to me, there's a chance, you know, we do meet that $7 million threshold without the North Bank slide. And if that's the case, you know what, if we do, we should do both. We should do the free money and the FEMA money. Mm-hmm. We should not stop our investigation, and we should pursue this and see what the most cost-effective way for the entire project, and for the board to be able to make that decision with all the information. And so the thing is, I totally believe in group emails. I always do that. You know, and I don't know if I've been in part of all the emails on the other side. You know, I have been sick, you know, in this last month. I had the flu twice. I had RSV this last week. I mean, it just kicked me in the guts. And I've been working as much as I've been working like crazy on this. And so I want to assure the board that our head is in the game. We are a team player, and we are looking at always at the most cost-effective way to make repairs.
Richard, could you explain why the last fix didn't work here?
The last fix,
It's called a raging river.
it's called a raging river,
No,
but the
actually,
thing
it was
is,
failing. No, it was failing before that.
yeah, you know what? Here, the professional opinion right here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
While he's coming up, see the little pile of rock right right at 9 o'clock?
Yeah.
See all the rock that was there between us and that point? It's just gone. I mean, and that's big rock. I mean, to have that powerful of current to move it and then do the damage after. Anyway, forgive me. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just looking at this, my assessment is looking at the thickness of this riprap. You know, there's a riprap buttress, a rock buttress, and then there's an armoring. This to me looks like an armoring. I'd be shocked if there was an engineer's stamp on that.
That's what I was wondering. That's,
Yeah.
is there a way we can go back and look at that fix? Was there an engineer's stamp on it? Because we had it engineered.
A riprap armoring that thick on a river with this much
Right.
current seems a little bit like a temporary fix.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough to stop a river of this magnitude with an armoring. And it's tough to get permitting to do a riprap buttress to the bottom of the river, which is the only way to stop this. And that's the challenge of this project. If you're going to put riprap in this,
You're gonna have to reach. You're gonna have to go way out.
Army Corps to the bottom of the river. Otherwise, you have to do the Cadillac version with the wall, and you still need some riprap protection in front of that anyway.
And just for clarification, that people might be watching this, you're the engineer, so you're the expert.
Yes.
And you're looking at this, and we know there was an engineer involved in the last one, but your assumption is probably they didn't approve this type of fix.
Well, it may have been stamped with the understanding that it's a temporary fix.
Okay.
We do that all the time.
Okay.
Let's
It
back
may
to,
not have had
this is going wrong. And so
It is?
the process historically have been that we had an engineering tech, okay, and he would draw up the repair in hand, and the road department would submit a joint permit application to U.S. Corps of Engineers. It'd go before the planning department. It would go before U.S. Marine Fisheries. Everybody. This permit would be a very difficult permit, and it has to do with in-water work periods and sediment control and everything. And so the 2017 repair, I could pull the file. I don't have it in front of me, but I could, with good understanding of how we did things, I believe that permit was applied for through Road Department Engineering Tech with a drawing that went through the U.S. Corps of Engineers, and we were given a permit to armor that bank, okay? When we armored it, there was more soil at the time, and armoring is different than
a rock buttress.
a rock buttress. A rock buttress is where you have a mass of rock all the way to the toe of the slope, and the toe of the slope is the river. And so and we don't know it yet, but what we're being told by guides is the river's 20 feet deep right next to that toe of that slope. And but Rogue Watershed Council, they had surveyed this whole river in this section, and they have, the report's not done yet. They don't think it'll be done till May, where it's going to show all the depths and contours of the river adjacent to this. And I'm trying to get them to expedite that report. So this was an armoring. So basically, the river gouged out below the armoring, and it all slid down into that hole in the river. And so that's why this time I'm going to the professionals. I'm getting engineered stamp drawings. I'm going to get engineered stamp geo reports. You know, it's going to be surveyed professionally. And that way, because we want to try to make a fix that will last, right? And so I had placed this in the master plan because when I first started working here, I was tasked with closing out the permit that the previous road department master had done. And I was unable to close it out because it didn't meet the handwritten drawing that the tech made.
Oh.
Okay? So and then when I tried to find equipment and everything to make this repair, it was very difficult because they don't sell or rent excavators that can reach down there that far and embed these root wads and rocks and riprap in. So there's different ways of scanning this cat, and through a professional geotech report, that's just $54,000 in the surveying work, and then they'll get that report will go to an engineer for the design that you choose. And it may be this multi-million-dollar soldier pile wall, tie-back wall. It may be that. And what that is there's these big I-beams that go in it like every 4 feet, and these concrete panels that slide between them, and they're tied back into the mountain. And that's maybe where it's going. That's the most expensive. But when we worked with FEMA on the last project, we gave them we had 3 options. FEMA automatic said we want to do the cheapest one. Okay, so we went that way, but then we ran into problems. So then we went to the next one. We ended up doing the most expensive one at the end. And so the thing is that I say we're doing our due diligence. Okay, we're going to get everything engineered. We're going to get stamped. This is part of the process. And if this ends up working out where we do get funded from FEMA on this project, we'll get 75% of that $54,000 cost back. If it ends up being where, you know what, there's a big enough event where we could do both,
The free one?
yeah,
Sixes?
yeah, but the
The
term
state.
is IR funds, I think it was. If we could do the FEMA and the IR, I can't remember the acronym now, is if we could do both, then we might get this all for free. And so, but we're laying that groundwork, and I got a 270-day timeline for the free one. Not saying we're going to do that, but you need to be able to make that decision, having all the information, and that's what we're trying to do.
So in order to meet that, I know that Chris is the obvious one to be doing this work. He's already been out there. He's a professional. He knows the area.
Got to go to bid though, right?
Well, we do you have to follow the current rules, and the rules require that if it's an emergency, if Richard writes, the way I understand it, if you write a narrative talking about why you need him on this right now, that's enough to qualify for the emergency, because this is very common. You got the guy, and you need to have the guy do it. But we also have constraints because we're a public entity. So if you read the new rules, you'll see it's very clear. But if we proceed with this, I would recommend approval of this motion, subject to Richard conforming the request to match the current procurement rules. And that's where you do this, because there's really, and Richard's point is well taken, time is of the essence. But at the same time, we have to be able, if you walk in to FEMA and you have not followed your own procurement rules, you're out the door. So these are all, that's why as we go forward, I think that's a important thing that we think about. The other question I had, when you and I had talked, Richard, so you were talking about, I was just trying to remember, because you said there were something with stump wads. What'd you have on that?
The original permit, see what they require, because this is critical salmon habitat, that when you install your riprap repair, that there's a certain amount of root wads. And I believe the permit at the time required like 9 or 13 root wads. And what they expect you to do, if I could walk in here.
Gives a little fish a place to hide.
Yeah, so when the water's up high, there's such rock here. They expect you to like cut this back and bench in a bunch of root wads with from dead trees or trees that you have salvaged, which we do all the time. And you'll have like a 12-foot stem, and you'll stab that stem like 12 feet into the bank and have a root wad, and you'll embed it with large, like 300-pound, 300 class riprap, just big like 3-foot boulders. And then you'll embed that with willow branches and pit run rock, and you'll build it up and up here. But the thing is, what we're afraid of even if we build it up to where it's more than just like a sheathing, this toe will slip out again. All this money.
If it's that deep down below, there's no way you're gonna be able to, you'd have to build it across the river
And
practically.
they won't give us a permit to fill it.
Right, exactly, exactly.
So that's where this soldier pile is, but I can't say that without a report, and I can't tell you to make a decision without giving you all the facts.
Well,
Also, I need to modify. I take it back. Rabia has clarified. She read the rules. And it says the board has to do a declaration specific to the project being an emergency. So you can make your motion subject to me preparing a declaration specifying that this is an emergency, and then
definitely an emergency.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Well, just a second, Chris.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, bud.
Sorry to talk about the life expectancies without finishing, but you can stamp drawings with different life expectancies. A lot of times we're required to do 75-year, 100-year life expectancy designs. That does not look like a 100-year life expectancy. It looks like something that was meant to be temporary. I didn't mean to assume that it was something that was expected to last 100 years.
Yeah.
They didn't want to spend $3 million.
Exactly, exactly. So, but that is a challenge that we have to deal with on this project, is scour protection.
Yep.
And the soldier pile tieback wall does allow you to stay further out of the river. You can drive a vertical pile, not drive, actually drill and socket closer to the roadway edge, and stay out of the river and do a little bit of scour protection there to give it the design life, whatever the commission wants.
So also, if we go back to the good old days, the way from what I understand from Richard and I talking to some guy on the side of the road, when we were up there, various outlaw members of the Boyce family went in and kind of rerouted up around the corner. That they basically built a channel farther up around the corner. Wouldn't something like that be worth talking about with the Corps of Engineers so that we could actually address? Because I mean, otherwise you're just putting this Band-Aid on, and I think you have to look at a larger fix when you're talking to FEMA and saying, especially if we think 100%, you'd want to be getting 100%.
I think we should be doing, excuse me.
But Chris, you're saying that soldier pile is 100% fixed?
It's the closest you're going to get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without-
You still have to deal with scour.
Yeah, without-
Eventually happening underneath the wall. That is a potential problem. But if you can get the panels down deep enough below the wall and buy yourself enough time to...
Talk about stacking the concrete once every
Yeah,
six
there's methods we're looking into. We've done this before where you have precast panels that fit between the H-pile flanges, and they're basically self-launch. If there's any scour under the wall, those
They just keep
heavy
going
concrete,
down.
They just keep going down, and then the county will have to put another one on top.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine
One option we're looking at.
rerouting the river is even an option.
No, or even getting a permit to put river
Yeah.
in the river is an extreme challenge. I know that kills a lot of projects.
I'm telling you.
Well, I mean, those days are over.
If you talk to the Corps of Engineers and you've got nymphs on your side and you have a rational project, it's not beyond the pale. You will run into the knee-jerk people who are against everything, but in fact, if it's done right, it would be beneficial for salmon habitat. If it was
A hydrologist saying.
well,
this is
you
what
want to
we
get
need to do.
you want to get a hydrologist to look at the entire river and say, that's why Richard's looking for this mapping. That's great, but I think we need to have a qualified hydrologist look at that, and then they can bring an actual thesis to the table that the Corps will listen to. But if it is just us saying we can get Court Boyce to do it at night, I don't think they're going to go for it. It's got to be a little
So
more.
I have a response to that. What day were we there that this picture was taken? 29th or 30th, I think.
This picture's taken since then.
Yeah, the point I want to make, though, I was there Saturday, and see the big chunk right under the edge of the pavement? That's gone.
It's not even there.
In the few minutes that I was there, I drove to both sides. The few minutes I was there, one time, in just a 2-minute, 3-minute period, one bucket of dirt came down, and about 30 seconds later, just a softball size of dirt came down. Point being, it's constantly moving. And then on the other side, and I've got a little presentation going later on if we have time. It's not a huge thing, but just to address it now, huge, maybe you were the first one to remind me of this, but I took pictures of the wires, and that whole hillside is not looking too good. The road department has cleaned that ditch out there, which is, and diverting the water, which was Chris's recommendation. Thank you. But that whole thing is moving. The other thing I want to summarize with here, you see the level of the water now? You should have seen it Saturday through that whole point, or that whole turn there. I'm just hoping and praying we don't lose the vegetation immediately upstream of this. Well, you can see similar to what is downstream. But the wires, the hillside that's potentially unstable on the other side, the west side of the road, opposite the river. So we're going to need to, I'm sure the engineers will be taking all that into consideration.
Yeah, the other side looked like a fresh slide coming down.
It is, and there's a house up there too. And so I think Emergency Manager Ward was going to try and make sure we contact those people and let them know there is a little bit of a risk there. So thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Okay.
So if I understood, Ted, the recommendation is to do this is to approve the cost pending a declaration from you.
Pending a declaration designating this particular slide as an individual emergency, needing the professional services of the people referenced in the proposal. I'll whip that up and then you guys sign it.
Okay. So is that a motion?
That's a motion.
That's a motion.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Chair.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Rich.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I just got an email in responding to this email where I made it clear it was 11 o'clock. They thought it was 1 o'clock. So I'm probably at fault there. I don't know if
We'll
the
get
board-
them in here.
Can we do it this afternoon? I didn't.
Well,
I said it's subject to
maybe
board approval.
Let's just, can they
Just-
come on the,
Are they here yet?
I don't think
No,
so.
they can come at 1 or 2.
I don't think we're not gonna be,
Should we shoot for 1:15?
I think we should shoot for February.
I've already turned them down twice.
Well,
They're tremendous.
I'll turn them down. You don't have to. Say it's John's fault.
No, I'm not going to do that. You don't want to meet this afternoon, though.
Well, like to get her
I
done.
want to get that thing back, and I want to get those people working.
Okay.
Court, bless your heart, you're the one that loves these meetings more than anybody, but,
Oh, yeah, I'm
yeah.
well, they're
Anyway.
definitely more enjoyable nowadays.
So let's move on. E is Commissioner Signature Authority on Documents, Commissioner Alcorn. It's 6E.
So I've noticed a couple of things in my short time here that I think we can improve on, that I think will make our employees more effective and timely, and then also a concern that I had about a couple things, and then Treasurer Barnes also brought up an issue that I'll speak to. So the first one is it's the signing of the time cards, basically. So it's like, I think it was day one, and someone came in and said, you sign these time cards, and I looked at it, and putting my signature on there would infer this to be a true and accurate account of,
Yep.
and I the reality is I had no clue. So then I checked in HR, and really they need that to complete payroll, and sometimes they're looking for one of us to sign those. And so the more I thought about it, it's like, why are we doing that? And I think because we don't know. So let's give our department heads the authority. That's my suggestion. Let's give them the authority to oversee their departments and handle their payroll. And when it comes to the department heads, HR can oversee that. And if there's an issue, it can be brought to us, and we can deal with it as the issue comes forward.
I agree. So I looked at this and went, yeah, I sign these things off. I don't know when my liaison
Right, yeah, there's no way.
department comes to work, leaves. So, and talking to Ted a little bit too, it's like, it's a.
We really don't want to have in a employment
hearing or something.
We really don't want to have to call you as a witness, and you show up and you're like, well, I just signed it.
Yeah.
That's never a good witness.
So, yeah. I mean, to say, well, that's because we've always done it. And that's not always
Right,
the.
and I think it would be more effective and timely
Yeah.
to give department heads the oversight to handle their departments.
Yep.
We got to trust our people.
We do trust them, and I think that's if I may?
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I'm not opposed to this. However, being in the position of responsibilities that we are, it'd be nice to, they just left that on our door, and they didn't, or a copy, and they didn't have to worry about getting a signature, having potential delays. I'd like to be able to follow up and see who I'm responsible for and what their general time frame is, hours, whatever, and not a lack of mistrust, but just the more information we have.
More of an update?
Yeah. Great.
And I think each of us can go to our each individual liaison people, department heads, and say, yeah, I'm not going to sign it, but just put it.
I think you should be able to get any information you want from
Yeah.
your
Yep. Department heads.
department. You bet.
So have
Putting a copy of the door on our door.
Yep.
If that's what you want, then just ask
Yeah.
them.
That's what I'd prefer, and it would be asking for a consistent procedure in addition to the copy that's going to Human Resources, correct?
They're coming into the building to leave it with us or Julie.
Both.
So
I'm saying both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just ask.
And I see Finance Director Jerome is here.
Yeah, I saw that.
So no more signature?
Yeah.
You would agree on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then the next one is the invoices.
The claims, yeah.
Basket of invoices, and it's essentially the same thing. I'm signing for a $54 approval of something that's under the umbrella of a department head in a department that's
In the
either
budget,
budgeted
yeah.
or not, and I have no idea if that's, and if there's an issue with that, we have safe mechanisms in place. I mean, the finance director is reviewing budgets. And then I can tell you right now that Treasurer Dave Barnes, if he comes across something that is odd at all, then he's going to flag it, which I just experienced a couple days ago. And then there's some oversight into it.
Yep.
But I think we have some mechanisms in place that are working well. But again, there's a basket of signatures that an employee is waiting for to process their work, and it just, the effectiveness and timeliness of it. Plus, again, I'm signing something that I have no knowledge of.
I would if I may, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair,
yeah.
I would encourage you to slow that down just a little bit, and I look forward to that basket. It's very educational for me, and it's quite informative. I think that it's part of the long-term and full-time accountability that we have here. It does. You can develop questions, responsible questions, clarifications, but not without those invoices. We're not going to see that.
I agree with the review, but not the signature.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss that? Okay.
Yeah.
So you still want to go through? You want one of us
I'm-
commissioners to go through the basket?
No, if you need to review something, so emergency management. I'm the liaison to emergency management, so I can look at their spending anytime I want. I can get a hold of Frank. I can talk to Dave. I can get a hold of Monica. I can get a printout. I can look at it. I can review it, and I should be doing that. Absolutely. But to sign an invoice or a
Claims.
$75 purchase that is a department head's choice, I don't. It's not our role to micromanage those departments. We need to give our department heads the latitude to make decisions in their departments. And when they come before us in the budget, they're held accountable to that. Absolutely.
I think that your role is as keeping track of those things. They come, you know, I think it's a great idea to be looking at that from your role, right?
Of course.
You should, and that way you're going to get an idea of how each one of these departments, what they're spending, right? But to put yourselves into this kind of like it's almost a decision-making process, which again you don't have. You would have to, if it came down to that, you'd have to be just, you know, deciding as a group before you do anything. But for your own personal knowledge, so then you can come in, you can say, you know, I was looking at emergency management, and you know, this is the 4th hot tub she's bought. You know, we got a problem.
Right. So there's been a lot of political stuff going on here the last 6 years, and so to suddenly have that basket not be part of my responsibility and relying on somebody that I may be politically disengaged with or in disagreement with. You know, I think maybe 4 or 5 times I have actually called up a department head and said, hey, this doesn't look right, help me out. What was this for? And I've always got good clarification. But I want to see the basket. And I think that's almost shucking our responsibility if we don't take that into a serious consideration.
Well,
That's what we're here for, and that's part of our job description.
I agree, and I can review any department heads. I can review any department head spending at any time. I can do that at any time. But when I sign my name on a document, then if I'm going to do that, then I'm going to have to go to the department head and I'm going to go, okay, you spent $54 here. Is that within your budget? Okay, then I approve that.
So you're saying you're uncomfortable with the signature, and
Yes.
I think I agree with that. But
Okay,
I still
good.
want to see the basket.
Yeah, I think you should see the basket. That's fine. Let's have.
Did I miss that?
And there's a recap in the basket, right? There's a 3 or 4 page recount.
No, I want to see every invoice. That's just one commissioner. I want to see every invoice,
Okay.
just like we've done.
I just don't want to sign.
Yeah.
We're in agreement then, total
Okay.
agreement.
All right.
Perfect.
Good. So we would agree on that.
Got a motion?
No more signatures on invoices from us.
Second, Mr. Chair?
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Motion.
Well, I did say yes.
Did
didn't
you?
I?
Okay, I know. Motion carries 3-0.
All right, so the last one is Dave brought to my attention, and this has to do with when someone comes in, it doesn't happen very often, but when someone comes into the treasurer's office and says, I want to pick up a check and take that check somewhere, then what Dave is asking for is that there would be, all requests must be in written form and addressed to the finance director / manager and senior accounting clerk. So there's just a written document to go with it to basically say who picked the check up. So there's a trail with it. That's it.
We don't need an order on that, do we? We need
I
something
mean,
to
it's
report.
just a policy. I mean, I think that would be fairly easy to just start requiring that. I don't think we need an order.
Fair enough.
You want to speak to that, Dave?
Yeah, if I could, I added that as the last sentence on the order that you had prepared for signatures. You know, it's just because it's something that is so out of the ordinary. It happens very, very seldom.
Yeah.
But, you know, just to have a paper trail on it to where this didn't get sent out by U.S. mail with the rest of them, this was hand-delivered, so.
So it would be part of the order.
It would become part of the invoice, the claim form itself.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
They are signing for the check.
They're signing, someone is putting in saying, I'm taking this check
Yep.
with me when I go. So that's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Council Fitzgerald just said order, and that threw me just a little bit. So that we have a consensus that this is just going to be a new policy, which
Yep.
we don't need an ordinance or an order, I don't think. And that we have agreement on that.
Yep.
Good. I think that's good business, come up with that, by the way.
Agree.
So, Ted, 2023 meeting schedule. Thanks, Frank.
The meeting schedule, you guys have to decide. Do you have any special requirements regarding the meeting schedule?
We actually have our 11:45 coming up here.
Okay.
And I was really trying hard.
You want to do, if they're here, you should do it.
Can we?
Well, I mean, this is pretty simple, right? We've been meeting on the first and third
Yeah,
Wednesdays.
you want to just keep it up?
That works for me.
Okay.
Throughout the year?
Yeah. I mean,
Are there any conflicts in December?
we can change if,
Let me look.
I think December, we got any holiday conflicts in there that we might need to adjust? Probably November, December might be the two. Maybe.
yeah, and last couple of years, we've just had one meeting in December. December of this year
You
is,
know, if we have a yearly schedule, that'll make JJ's job a little easier.
And Eric Luciano's too.
Yeah.
And Eric, yeah.
so it'll be the 6th and the 20th of December. If, right now. So
Subject-
November's really good because it'll be like the 1st and the 15th, so it's not even getting close to Thanksgiving. So, and, if we need to change, we can.
Yeah,
I mean,
subject to change,
Yep.
but
Yep.
Sounds good. Yeah, I don't see.
Okay, that was easy. Does anybody have Ted, did you?
I'm not aware of any. I
Just-
think
you
we-
just wanted to-
Yeah, I just wanted to
in
make sure that
writing?
we're,
Okay.
unless you guys want to change it and only have like semi-annual meetings or anything like that.
No, I'm good with first and third Wednesdays is
Okay.
kind of in
I almost took you
sync here.
serious for a second there.
Yeah, I don't. All right, if your guys are ready,
Welcome, Connie Hunter.
I'm gonna take this off, and you'll probably
Please.
see I don't have much makeup on. You'll probably say I look pale, but I only have to put makeup on from here up if I wear the mask. So anyway, good morning. I just want to check to see if our co-presenters are online with us. Are they?
Connie, this is David Crack. I am here. You guys can hear and/or see me?
yes.
Yes, we can
Good day,
see
David.
you and hear you loud and clear, sir. Thank you for being here. And unidentified caller, I'd like to identify her. Jessica Lloyd Rogers. Can you speak up? Can we hear you? We're just doing a tech check real quick.
I hear you loud and clear.
Well, we hear you loud and clear, and I can tell by your voice that you have a smile on your face. I know you well enough to know that. Okay, so Jessica's here, Jessica Lloyd Rogers, and we'll go ahead and Commissioner Boyce, did you want to say anything going into this?
No, you're doing fine.
Okay.
Only that getting to know both David Cracky and Jessica Lloyd Rogers for the benefit to veterans and their dedication and everything we're talking about with the hyperbaric oxygen treatment thing, the support that the county's given, just take it away. Thank you very much for your work.
Okay, so the nuts and bolts of development, whether it's community development, nonprofit development, or economic development, are three pieces: affect public policy, create policy, strategic plan, give strategic value to all things, and only act on those things with the highest strategic value. And the third thing is create resources. So today we have two public policy folks right here to help us talk about the first part of development, how we can affect public policy. Dave Cracky has come to us from Siebert, and I'm going to let you do a self-intro. We're going to move it along fast. We got a lot of territory to cover. So Dave Cracky, quick self-intro, and then I'll do a little bit of an intro for Jessica Lloyd Rogers, and she can self-intro a little bit more. Go ahead, Dave. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Connie. Chair Herzog, Vice Chair Alcorn, Commissioner Boyce, first of all, thank you so much for letting us present today. It's a very important subject. As Connie mentioned, I am with the Center on Brain Injury Research and Training. I am Oregon's Brain Injury Advocate Coordinator, a position that was recommended by the Governor's Task Force on Traumatic Brain Injury. I will be here today to talk briefly about Senate Bill 420,
Thank you.
which will establish brain injury resource navigation services in Oregon. Currently, Oregon is one of 11 states without such a central office. And I will also discuss briefly the wonderful experience we had in Multnomah County and Washington County doing the state's first ever brain injury screenings at a veterans stand down. Really an important milestone for us, and we're looking forward to expanding this effort throughout the state, and especially using current
Jessica next. We're going to come back to you, David.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure how Florence was, so you'll have to give me cues here since I'm on the phone. Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me today. As you heard, my name is Jessica Lloyd Rogers. I'm the chair of the Roseburg Mental Health Advocacy Council. We represent the 7 counties in the Roseburg VA catchment area. That's the mental health catchment area, which is a little larger, and Curry County is a very significant part of that catchment area. And I'm here to talk about how we can collaborate on making things easier for the many, many veterans who are in Curry County. And I'll turn it back over.
Thank you very much.
And Dave, thank you for that, Jessica. Dave, I think it's really important for you to continue and give us a little more information about that bill, especially when we're talking about developing a hyperbaric oxygen therapy program. You're talking about a significant piece of the puzzle for workforce development for our program. So brain injury navigators, what does that look like? And a little bit more about the legislation, please, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. I appreciate that very much. Commissioners, it's truly an honor, as I said, to be here because this is such an important issue. Brain injury resource navigation is another way of saying that we want to do our best to connect Oregon's brain injury survivors with the necessary support and services that are in their geographic area that are also relevant to that person in a person-centered and very equitable manner. We know that people experience brain injuries from all walks of life. There cannot be a more bipartisan issue, unfortunately, nor an issue that connects so many Oregonians with the struggles that they find themselves in after a brain injury. The statistics are staggering with regard to the homeless population, with some statistics showing 55% of all people experiencing homelessness having a brain injury that predated their homelessness. The incarceration rates for people with males with brain injury is approaching 50% of the general population in any given incarceration facility. For females, that's up to 70%, with most of those brain injuries also predating their incarceration. Brain injury can lead to disinhibition, anger control, executive function problems, all of which can contribute to an individual's actions that are unlawful and that ultimately lead them into prison. It is a huge problem with substance use disorder as well as a prime co-occurring condition for people experiencing mental health and behavioral health issues. It is also, unfortunately, a huge problem with our veteran population. And we find veterans, brain injury was the signature injury for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've had the honor of working with veterans specifically who found themselves recovering from and experiencing chronic problems with brain injury after being blown up in an IED while on patrol, after having a penetrating injury from shrapnel or a bullet or other sources. And it's just beyond humbling to be able to help these folks. There was one, as I mentioned, we did our first ever in-person brain injury, first ever of any kind, brain injury screenings at the Multnomah County stand down, and then followed shortly after at the Washington County stand down up here in the Portland area. And I was just dumbfounded, especially with one veteran who came in so obviously brain injured. He had been blown up in an IED, improvised explosive device attack. He literally had trouble walking. He was in that horrible stage of either moderate or severe brain injury, which is no longer the quote-unquote invisible injury. Anyone who looked at him could tell that there was a problem with his cognition. And yet the VA had not yet assessed him for the brain injury. They assessed him for a spinal cord injury that he suffered in that same attack, but not for the brain injury. And so as a result of our screening, he screened positive, of course, for the brain injury, and we were able to work directly with his veteran service officer to get him connected with that VSO and on the way toward the application process for the necessary and rightful VA benefits that he had previously been denied. We were able to connect 13 veterans during the course of both of those stand-downs to their VSOs for benefits life effect of our work that we do, and that it's in so many ways conceptual or hypothetical, but this is really where that rubber hits the road, and it was just wonderful. The Senate Bill 420, kind of an unfortunate bill number, but we'll get through it. So Senate Bill 420 will establish a brain injury navigation program in Oregon that will focus on service coordination, resource navigation, advocacy, and options counseling. It will provide an actual person for the brain injury survivor to connect with at the Department of Human Services in their adult and people with disability office. We have big, really good tie-in and buy-in from that agency. Similarly, we have constituents across the state who support us, including, I know, Commissioner Boyce and certainly Connie and the team down there doing such wonderful work in Curry County. That being said, there are some state representatives and senators that we could really use some help in getting the word out and letting them know that the Curry County Commissioners support everything we can do for Oregonians in your county with brain injury. That includes outreach to Senator Art Robinson, who is in fact on the Human Services Committee, which is where this bill will have its first hearing. We anticipate that hearing probably sometime, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Similarly, Senator David Brock Smith, while he is not directly tied to the Healthcare and or Human Services Committee, he nonetheless, by all accounts, is someone who will understand this issue and wants to do right by everyone in your county. South Coast residents are particularly vulnerable. As you know, there is a geographic isolation that occurs. As a result, there is probably even additional confusion as to where to go. What this office will do is will allow those people in Curry County who were affected by brain injury, and we're talking also about loved ones, because things like respite care are huge. If you're all of a sudden taking care of a family member who has a moderate or severe brain injury, that's a 24/7 job. You need some respite, you need some time off, and there are services, there are mechanisms to provide that. It's just a matter of accessing those services. The Advent, as we are presenting today, as I'm presenting today, the virtual platform has really also added access to various services and support that is critical. We have a really wonderful support group, brain injury survivor support group up in the Portland area and the Tri-County area that's attracting people from not only all over the state, but from other states and even internationally because of the availability of the digital platform. And that is wonderful as well, and something that we will continue as this bill goes on. Brain injury is often called the invisible injury, and that is truly the case for the mild traumatic brain injury. Mild is a complete misnomer. It's something medical literature identifies, but there is no such thing as a mild traumatic brain injury or a mild brain injury of any kind. It will affect cognition, executive function. Now, hopefully it's transient. Hopefully the person will recover, as most people who suffer concussions do, in a period of 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. But nonetheless, there's still a percentage, about 14% of those people who experience concussion that will go on to have long-time chronic problems. And those folks need help in everything from not only, of course, medical and therapeutic services, but employment services, housing services, disability services, veteran services, as we mentioned, social support, food stability, caregiver respite. These are all things that the bill will address. I want to kind of stop there because I know we are short on time. That's it in a nutshell. But Commissioner Boyce has just been absolutely wonderful in his support for our efforts, and I really hope that the Commission as a whole will support our efforts, and like I said, will also provide some outreach to our state representatives down in the southern coast and southern central portion of Oregon, as that support will be really critical for this program to get through the legislature in what promises to be a very difficult financial atmosphere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, thank you. This is Connie, and I just wanted to ask you if we can follow up on something that we talked about earlier, and that you'll come down and help us do a town hall. I'm just putting it out there. You said it once, it's stuck.
For reminding me, Connie, that we currently trying to negotiate a contract with the Oregon Health Authority to expand the outreach for veterans with brain injury. And as part of that, if we are successful in obtaining the funding to do so, I will be tasked with doing 3 such presentation outreach workshops. And we want to come to Curry County for one of those. And if we do, I hope to see all the commissioners there. And certainly with Connie's help, we will really do what we can, not only for the veterans, but for the community in general that are suffering with brain injury.
Thank you so much. And let's also do a Zoom with Dr. Kent Sharman, who is over the Chief Medical Officer for Advanced Health. And I'm going to wrap that part up. But he mentioned we'd be one of 3 in the whole state. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm very honored that in today's issue of Willamette Week, just posted this morning, the cover story is about brain injury in Oregon, and they featured a wonderful family up here in the Portland area. Then they talked extensively about Senate Bill 400-420, and I really urge you all to take a look at that as well when you can. Thank you.
David, I have a, excuse me one second. I have a letter, and I'm going to run it by the board and see if we can get support. And we all know the state senators and representatives that you've mentioned. Oregon's got a chance to lead here, and Curry County has a chance to lead thanks to you and Connie getting our attention almost over a year ago now with the $65,000 that the county contributed. So you're tops in Oregon and in your field, and it's just been likewise a tremendous pleasure to get to know you and work with you. So that's, yeah.
So David, I'm new here. We haven't spoke before, but I can tell you that I have some friends and associates that are Tier 1 military folks, some of which have gone through the hyperbaric treatment. It was described to me as being 40 consecutive days, including a complete reset with nutrition and fitness and lifestyle changes, and they have reaped the benefits of that. So I'm in full support of this as well.
We got about 5 minutes, Connie.
That was Brad Alcorn, Commissioner Brad Alcorn that spoke, and I just wanted to say thank you for that.
I'm on this, so I can see everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And Jessica, I wanted to let you know as well. Thank you for that, Brad. I needed that wet blanket lifted because the last commissioner that was in your position put a wet blanket on there. So thank you for that. So we'll have a consensus to go to support this work. So thank you. And Jessica, are you still there? You've been so patient.
I am. I'm very excited about what I just heard. I'm going to be emailing Dr. Cracky so that we can have a conversation. This is very exciting stuff. But that's an offline thing. So do you want me to roll on?
Yes, and I also want to highlight something that we had talked about previously, Jessica, and it's going to be out of context for the rest of the people in the room, but we do have a fiscal sponsor for our Mental Health Advocacy Council. We need to talk about that at some point too and see if it might work in conjunction with this program. But I just want to highlight that. I'm going to shut up and let you do your thing because you're an amazing female veteran that I have had the blessing to work with over the past few years.
Well, thank you so much. So some of you, we're going to do this in an interesting way. I have the PowerPoint right in front of me, and I'm going to, and I guess Connie's going to be taking it to the next one when I say next. Is that how it's going to work?
I think our staff is tuned in here.
Okay.
You just call it out, and he'll move it forward.
Well, he hasn't.
Okay, that's perfect. So first of all, thank you again for having me. I'm gonna race through some of this, but I'm gonna hesitate and pause at some of it that's much more important. First of all, I don't do this work alone. We have 2 veterans on the executive committee, Don Jenkins, who's a former Marine, and William Bill Castro, who's a former Army guy, and myself, also U.S. Army. And then our secretary is Connie Hunter, who has been just amazing. One of the important things to say about the Roseburg Veterans Health Advocacy Council is that we are run by veterans. We want input from everyone who's related to veterans, who works with veterans, who supports them, but only the veterans vote. That was decided not by me, but by the group that formed it. We just felt that it was really important to do that. So I want to give kudos and credit to the rest of my executive committee. And of course, you know, Connie, right? The firecracker for all of us. Next slide. Our vision is that every eligible veteran with a mental health issue at any stage of life is connected to the VA, has access to, and receives timely, respectful, and effective treatment and support that he or she has earned with the service of their country. I'm going to go back to some of those words later, but I want to keep moving. Our mission is to improve that respectful, timely services, access, and connection to all veterans in Oregon with mental. Actually, we want it for all veterans in Oregon. We're focused on our catchment area. And how do we do this? We do this through education, through outreach and advocacy. Always, we hope, whenever possible, working in collaborative, respectful partnerships. What does that look like? The education partly is what I'm doing now, showing people what the scope of the issue is. Another part of it is destigmatizing mental health issues. That's gotten better in the last few years. Unfortunately, that's come with a rise in mental health issues, partly due to COVID, partly due to all of the things that we know happen. We want to educate folks that these are not...
Can you hold for just a second? Can you hold for just a second? We need to go one more slide. Can you pass? Okay, there you go. Sorry, go ahead, Jessica. We're on the wrong slide.
Okay. Let's see. These are earned benefits, not entitlements. That's really, really important. And that there is enough. Every veteran has earned this benefit, so they don't need to think about, oh, I don't want to take benefits away from somebody who's worse off than I am, which is a common veteran attitude. This also includes education about things like late onset PTSD. I have personal experience with that. I diagnosed with PTSD 40 years after I got out of the military. It's actually quite a common thing, but not enough people are paying attention to it. And it can be a real shock when it happens to you. I'm here to tell you. We also talk about the impact of ACEs and veterans. That's adverse childhood experiences. There is some significant corollaries between those who've experienced ACEs and what happens to them as veterans, both in the military and as veterans. We're also going to be talking about aging veterans, which you'll see that we have a significant number of marginalized veterans, which include veterans of color, LGBTQIA2S+, women, the unhoused, and those who have at some point been incarcerated or are currently incarcerated.
Next slide.
For outreach, we want to...
Go ahead.
Beg pardon?
I just had them move to the next slide.
We want to make this issue visible, and for doing that, we will be doing presentations like this one. We'll be doing the media, and we'll also be reaching out to families. We did a presentation about a month and a half ago, and the response we got afterwards from spouses and sisters was, now I understand what's going on. I didn't understand. And so that's a really, really important piece, because sometimes a veteran won't do something for themselves, but they'll do it for their family. And so we want to connect to that piece of it. And then for advocacy, we may point We may point a veteran with an issue in a particular direction to solve that issue, but really we're working for system changes at the local, state, and national level. And this includes legislative support, and so we are very excited about what's happening with the HPOT thing. Next slide. So this is very important for folks to understand. Oregon has one of the largest concentrations of veterans in the nation. In Oregon, currently 73% of eligible veterans are not connected to the VA system. And the numbers from 2020 show that in our catchment area, there are nearly 70,000 veterans, and a little more than 10% are women veterans. Here's some numbers that are kind of important. I already talked about the 73%. 53%, Dr. Cracky talked about this, of the in-house, the study that I looked at, have a TBI, and I think it's very safe to assume that it's higher for veterans because of combat and other things that happen in the military.
Jessica, real quick, I'm going to interrupt, and I know normally I wouldn't do that. It's 93% among homeless veterans, and that was information that Dave shared. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're starting to run out of time, though.
Okay.
And we're running out of time, so you're doing awesome.
The suicide rates, and I know that many of us know this, are much higher for Oregon veterans than both the national veteran population and the general population. In 2020, the latest I could get numbers for, there were 130 veteran suicides, one every 3 days. The key thing for us, really, really key, are these next three. More than 12,000 veterans with mental health issues in our catchment area are not connected to the VA. 53% of our veterans are 65 and over, and that's estimated to grow to 55% by 2027. And they are still thinking that 2/3 of them will not be connected to the VA. And right now, 60.1% of the veterans getting treatment from the VA are 65 plus with multiple chronic conditions. The reason that's important is because it goes to the fact that not only do we have veterans, we have aging veterans. That creates a lot of different dynamics that we need to be aware of. With White City catchment, I have not broken it apart, and I apologize for that, but with the White City mental health catchment area, we have 36% of all Oregon veterans live here. 36% of the men and 35% of all women veterans in Oregon. And then when it comes to the aging veterans, 38% of all Oregon veterans ages 65 to 84 and 40% of all Oregon veterans over the age of 85 live in our catchment area. So that's really important. So in order to meet these needs, which I have sort of glossed over because I was moving really fast, we have to collaborate. Here are some things that, and this is just a piece of the iceberg, that are important for us. The HBOC proposal and now legislation, that is critical. The latest national study I saw said that all out of active duty veterans, active duty military and veterans, the percentage of those with PTSD is 75%. We need HBOC. We also know that the unhoused veterans, that's getting more and more serious, and of course our weather's getting worse, suicide prevention, and then just that very first step, connecting veterans to the VA using their earned benefits. And so my request, next slide, my request is how can we work together? And if you can see it, you see there's a cute little brainstorming.
Keep going, Eric.
There. And I would like to request that presentations are wonderful, and I love doing them, and I'm happy to do them for any group in Curry County that wants to hear me talk about this. But we need to figure out how are we going to do this stuff that really moves the needle. And so I'm asking you to think about what can happen from the commission standpoint. As you know, from Connie, and I like to think I'm following in her footsteps a bit, we're happy to give you ideas, but we really want to know what do you think you are empowered to do, and what can you do to help us meet this absolutely critical need that in fact is growing. And then I just wanted to say on my last slide is here's how to contact me. I'm always open to being contacted. Give me a call, send me a text. Text is usually better, or email are the easiest ways to reach me. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you for being here, Jessica. You're an amazing person to work with. Okay, I'll get you guys the information, and if you could put up the HBOT update presentation, that would be fantastic. We're on the subject of substance use disorder today. I just wanted to mention that most projects like this are done in phases, and we're set up to do 3 phases. Phase 1 is startup. We're getting very close to the end of that startup, and but the biggest critical part of this is creating strategic partnerships, and I want to highlight the one that's in the works right now. That's probably going to be the highest value to this project, and that's the relationship with the VA Office of Rural Health. I need 3 thumbs up from the Board of Commissioners to go ahead and pursue a proposal to be submitted in the springtime to VA Office of Rural Health. We're going to try and tie it to a research study, because part of the reason that HBOT isn't paid for right now is FDA hasn't collected enough information. So as we deliver services and as we build, we're communicating and want to get that information brought to the collective piece of the puzzle. And Dave Cracky coming down here and doing town hall, what we'll do around that is a big fundraiser. But essentially, Southern Oregon Workforce Investment Board, CCOs, funders that I worked with in the past who have funded programs that I've brought forward at a national level are willing to step up. AVVA, America's Mighty Warriors, is currently providing HBOT, paying for HBOT. So I want you to look at your handouts. The first one is talking a little bit about opioid treatments and so forth. But what I wanted to say about business development is we're talking about HBOT for a number of things. So if I want to have sustainability in a program, I have to be able to ethically, as a professional fundraiser, be assured that there's sustainability in the funding ahead. I'm not going to go and look for a location to put us in if I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to support that. So what and so what I've done, I'm going to show you this just for SUD. This is the state's Substance Use Disorder Services Directory. Every provider in this directory is a potential referrer to Curry County HBOT program. I'm going to hand it over to you so you can take a look at it. I'm going to leave some there. You're going to see HBOT Treat Now Coalition. That's a group of HBOT providers, and we'll join that providers, and they will refer veterans from across the country. And they'll connect with America's Mighty Warriors and pay for that veteran if they are referred through American Mighty Warriors. So he doesn't have to worry about VA or not. Then you're going to see in your third part of your handout is Veterans Resources. These are huge lists that go out, and we are tapped in to how they happen, when they happen, and how we can get our services listed there. So we have a referral system in place that's the dots are being connected with the VA and other regional providers, and that makes it easier for us to become a local provider to deal with the regional providers and tap in with the VA. And once we have that proposal to to VA Office of Rural Health, we will work with the Office of Community Care and Rocky Phillips to become a vendor. And that's what I worked on, and that's why I convened both of those VA Healthcare Summit, the first one and 2.0, and we got our local providers hooked up. So I've been doing this already for 10 years for Curry County. We'll just do it better and more specifically to our program. But what I want you to know is I had written a grant to ODVA. It didn't get put through. Basically, I'm going to update this, and this is going to become our case statement. The only reason it's not updated is tomorrow is our Veterans Task Group, and that's when we're going to get some input on that. But you can rest assured that the HBOT funding opportunities are there. I've been blessed in amazing opportunities coming forward from the VA. That means we're also reconnecting with together with veterans, which is the program that helps us put together our data collecting capabilities. And it's going to provide us $40,000 funding in the first year, $30,000 in the second year, and $30,000 in the third year. So we've already technically met your match of $65,000 as soon as we get that paperwork going. But I will have to work with the different pieces of the puzzle internally here. So I'm going to need some direction. I'm going to need some help navigating. But I've been working with the Nonprofit Association of Oregon. If you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Operational development, phase 2, you're going to see all of that, workforce planning. I'm already sticking my nose into SOWIB and paying attention to the workforce development. And of course, if the legislation passes that Dave is talking about, of course, we have our brain injury navigators. Can you go to the next slide, please? Planning details. The Nonprofit Association of Oregon is providing assistance in developing a nonprofit's business plan, and SCORE can provide free business startup mentoring. So we're going to have those resources at our fingertips. As part of the plan, we've researched others that may be doing some of the same work. So we've already started to create some national alliances. That's why the Treat Now Coalition is mentioned. Shopping for a fiscal sponsor for the rest of the startup phase. We actually have four that want to be our sponsors. Now we have to vet them and see which is the best. And I mentioned one there. Grant seeking process needs to be determined by the Board of Commissioners, and that was my request. Other than that, let's see, I have some other notes, and I think we're about ready to wrap it up. I beg your pardon for the time.
While Connie's looking there, would you mind sending us a link to that Willamette Weekly article? That would be really beneficial to have on hand. Thank you.
I will. I have a copy of that
Okay.
too. Anyway, and I wanted to say the state of Oregon, Oregon Health Authority Public Health Task Force to rewrite the state's opioid tapering guidelines. I sat on that task force, if you remember. So I am reaching out to all of that cohort to see if we can put together a major fundraiser, which includes state license plates. So I'm working on that, and then you probably have an envelope there. Yes, thank you, Mr. Jesuit. If you'll just open that, you'll see I've taken some trainings, and then there's going to be a proclamation that the city of Brookings passed, and it's made the city of Brookings a Purple Heart city. And I'd like to have Curry County become a Purple Heart County and get all of our other cities to become Purple Heart cities so that we can really start to build the right petri dish and the right culture to bring in people from out of the area to see who we are and why HBOT they should fund. And I can tell you, I have a Gold Star father who's jumping up and down, happy beyond measure, because this is what he'd like to do in loving memory of Sergeant John Kyle Dagan, my nephew who was killed in Iraq. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Your exuberance is undeniable, and we support you 100%. But we're going to say thank you, and
We wrapping it up?
we're wrapping it up.
So we get lunch break? Thank you,
Well,
gentlemen.
we're going to get a lunch break. We're going to do, if it's okay with the rest of the board, I'd like, we got 3 commissioner updates. There's no executive session today, so, and then we won't have to come back at all. JJ, sorry for being late, but I'm first, and I have nothing to update. Commissioner Alcorn is next.
2 things briefly. One, we will be doing a full debrief on the emergency management thing, and I will bring back to the board the highlights of that debrief, what we did well, what we could do better. And then I just want to remind you I'll be gone the next several days
County College.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'll be anxious to hear how that goes. Mr. Boyce?
Gentlemen, I got pretty proud, I got a call from Senator Merkley. Friday night, I sent his staff that picture that we last looked at with the engineer and Roadmaster Christensen. And I've also, I've not sent a letter to ODOT, but I've put a copy on your desk. I'd like to, instead of having this be a letter from Commissioner Boyce, if you agree with the general concept, and included in this is all the stakeholders of developing that emergency road between Gold Beach and Port Orford. Read it when you have time. It could be tied into Oregon Department of Forestry, the Rogue-Siskiyou Regional Fire Training Center, certainly ODOT, BLM, Forest Service, all the above. That road is, we could possibly jointly find the funds to make that a long-term permanent emergency access. Plus get from the Rogue-Siskiyou Regional Fire Training Center, putting it in as part of their footprint, teaching forest management, teaching road maintenance, teaching, just having that backup. Elk River down to Euchre Creek. So I'm really abbreviating, but I'd like to have your opinion on this letter, see if the board wants to, there's no rush on this. Certainly, when you say Curry County, that means the sheriff, emergency management, that means everybody would have to kind of come together on this. So it's not been sent, but it is a kind of a rough draft. On the homeless issue, I have a plan out there. We don't have to discuss it today, but I wonder if you would look at that plan and say, okay, is that something that we collectively want to come together on and pursue? It just has so many aspects of everything has to do with mental health, substance use disorders, all of the above. And so pulling you gentlemen in and having a united voice, I think, could be really impactful. So that's where I am on that.
Did you say United Voice or United Voice?
United Voices. So, yeah, guys, that's the homeless plan, the Curry County. Just take a look at that and see if there's something we want to pursue on that. And then, we still have to look for revenue. And thank you for your support on the HBOT. And I might want to turn that over to you at some point. Just, I could take a supportive role. I don't know. But, again, appreciate your interest. So that's all I have.
All right, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Everybody in favor, stand up and say thank you, folks, for tuning in. We'll see you on the 1st of February. Thank you, guys.